fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to...
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. This is episode 61, and my guest this week is many things. A photographer, an avid cyclist, a host of his own show on the radio. But before we get to him, I want to remind you, if you're watching this on YouTube and you would prefer an audio-only version, you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many other places like that. If you are listening on one of those, though, and you didn't realize there was a visual side to the show, please come check it out on YouTube. While you're there, if you would subscribe, it would mean a lot to me. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and it really just warms my heart. So if you've supported the show in any way, thank you so much. If you want to contact me, you can email me at justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. And while you're there, let me know if you want one of these stickers. Literally, email me, and I will mail one to you. No one's taken me up on that yet. Anyways, back to the guest, my good friend, Erik Stolpmann.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Erik, and Oliver, thanks for having me.
Dude, I've been looking forward to this for a while because we were waiting for you to get vaxxed for a bit, and now we're all safe and good to go.
Yes, I'm double vaxxed, and I have to say, I've already said it to everyone here, but this is an amazing studio space.
Thank you.
For the people looking on the camera, you're getting just a glimpse of it. It's truly, I saw, and when I was watching your show in the first few episodes, I was like, damn, like it looks beautiful. It's very cool. It shows a lot of your character. I walk in and I'm like, I would want to live here.
It extends beyond the cameras quite a amount.
When we were walking down the stairs and you were like, hey, there's a No Doubt little album print, and then there's the Clash, and I was like, and I walked down and it's like this plethora of personality.
Yeah, well, one thing I knew I was going to be geeking the place out, but I did want to include music because it was always such a huge part of my life. So that's why we got Big Bob up here, who's also on my shirt today. But comedy connections, and then of course when people come by, which I forgot to tell you, they usually bring something to throw up on the wall. But if you don't have something, many people will just doodle something on the spot, or just to leave a piece of yourself behind, and add to the
that's so cool.
So there you go.
Could I give you something another time?
Yes, 100%. I've got a couple people that I still have to track down for. So just hopefully I'll actually get it from you because, people forget. But
that's amazing. So a lot of the things around that I'm looking at are from other people that have been on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you after we wrap. I'll go around if you want, like a little breakdown.
I would love to do that.
It's been such a great experience, and you are a very like-minded individual. You do host your own show, as we mentioned, and you've had me on your show. We'll get to that in a bit, but let's start about talking. How we met.
Sure.
So I first met you. You were taking photos of a comedy show that I was on, and you had done that several times in several comedy shows. And you took great pics. Like, it's still my Instagram profile picture. So, and I've seen many other people who use your pics as well. So I want to know, let's talk photography first. How did you get into photography, and how much of a part of your life is it really?
Do you want me to go way back?
Yeah, let's start from the beginning, man.
Once upon a time, my father owned a VHS recording device, otherwise known as a camera, but that used VHS tapes. So I started filming with that when I was a kid. Really enjoyed doing just random, this is before the YouTube days, right? So I was filming viral videos
that no one saw.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. You know what's up. So I was just doing that with a friend next door, and then eventually that kind of subsided a little bit, but taking Comtech class at high school really opened my eyes to what I really enjoyed about video and visual stuff. And it wasn't until I got a DSLR in around 2013 that it truly clicked or snapped, I guess, I was like, I really like doing this. And what started just taking photos of friends eventually evolved to me coming to Ottawa and then being like, hey, I really want to dedicate some love to the music scene. So that's where I started taking photos of local musicians. Just I would go to a show, have my camera, take a few shots.
Which everyone appreciates as the artist, I can say, because afterwards you get this photo of some great moment and you're like, thank you so much.
For sure. And the thing is like, I'm still not doing photography like intensively professionally. It's more still of like a hobbyist sort of thing that I really enjoy doing. And occasionally I do get paid for it, but that's not really the purpose of why I do it. But the moments what you said is like going to these shows, I'm already going to be at the show. Why not take a few shots, send it to the artist, and then suddenly they have something. Or like you said, like going to these comedy shows. So I started doing more comedy photography because I started to really enjoy going from the music scene to the comedy scene and starting to connect with people in the comedy scene and finding out that not only is our comedy scene in Ottawa actually incredible and you're obviously a part of it, but there's so many cool people who are respectful and awesome and inviting. And I met a lot of them through Yucks at the start. And eventually I got started taking photography, and I met Janelle at one point and I started taking some photos at her show.
At Eddie's, yeah.
And that's where it all came. And I would say that one of the main reasons I fell in love with photography, though, was it kind of being an ability for me to connect better with other things that I love, like local music, local comedy,
yeah,
and people just in general.
That's amazing, man. And you take great photos too. It's not like you're just half an ass in it. You know, everything I've seen has always been really, top shelf.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that I've worked on a little bit, and not too intensively, like I mentioned, but it's something that I truly care about. And when I'm taking a photo, especially of like if I'm at a comedy show, taking a photo of you, for example, I want to capture you as I would be seeing you as an audience member, but also just as another person. Like I don't want to overdo it to make it look too
fabricated or
exactly.
Yeah.
But I also still want to capture moments that I think capture the experience of what's happening, especially at comedy. And I will say one quick thing, that my mantra when I'm taking photos at comedy, music, etc., I always adapt. So if I'm in a position, I don't force myself into other positions, even though I think that I might get a better shot there. If I can't get there, I don't go there.
Wow. So you don't care so much about vantage points. You'll just make it work.
Because I whatever I can get, I make the most of it. But
there's something more real about that in the sense. If you're in a crowded place at a show, sometimes you can't get to the perfect spot, and it's more like the real experience.
And I also try to give the people who are actually paying to see the shows, they're the ones who deserve the front seats. They're the ones who deserve, like, unless I have like a pit or something, like at a show, like at Blues Fest or City Folk or whatever. I'm
like
not going
a
to
press section, you mean? Like
I'm not going to push my way to the front. And same at like when I was taking photos at comedy shows, I try very, very, very hard to be discreet, because comedy is very quiet at times compared to music, and I don't want to get in people's way and throw off the momentum of the audience or the comedian.
That's very respectful.
I will say though, sometimes it can be very stressful depending on where I am. But at the same time, I've learned that's the one thing I just wanted to say is like, that's my main focus, no pun intended.
Adaptability.
Yeah. And it's like, so basically if I'm at a comedy show, if I'm at an event of some sort, or if I'm just taking photos of a person, if I'm out just having fun, I try not to like overly stage it. Just like if we're in a certain place, make the use of what we have around us, make the use of where I am. If I can get like a few shots kneeling down out of people's way, that's great. But I'm not going to go in front of a person, or I will try very, very hard to not break that connection between audience and performer.
Well, I think it's cool what you said too about like you've gotten paid here and there, but it's not really like what you're doing for a living. So I think that's true with a lot of art forms, that can kind of corrupt the initial process, and what was a passion becomes a chore. That happens so many times over. So that speaks to your work, and because that comes through. Everything you've been describing is exactly what I've seen in your work. So
and again, like it just comes back to the simplest thing, that I just love the community. I love Ottawa. I love the people. Hence why, like, I've had people like you on my show on CKCU, and it really just boils down to the fact that the people in the city inspire me in many ways. And I'm so happy that I got to know people in the comedy scene, because I wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case.
By and large, it's a very welcoming community.
Oh, totally. And just the fact that like I've been connected in multiple ways to different things. Obviously with you, like seeing you at comedy, but now it's become more than just
and
meeting.
We have a ton of mutual friends, and
oh yeah. And I mean, like, I would actually love at one point after this to go for like a beer or something with you. And
beer, anytime.
Because like you and I walk down here and I'm like, oh my God, I'm overlapping with Oliver so much. What's going on?
Well, it's actually crazy, man, because like I always try to put my main bullet points and themes for conversation, and I'm like, what order should this be in? And you like touched on all of them in the span of like 5 minutes. So I'll try to stick with photography so I don't forget my photography questions. But do you have? I do think it's interesting that you started with video. I would have never guessed that, like camcorder style. And you actually mentioned like making pre-YouTube YouTube videos. And I actually did that. Morgan, my cousin's sitting in on this one, and she probably remembers some of the old videos we used to make with my cousins that have been unearthed in more recent years. And
That's amazing.
Dude, I honestly wish I would have put more effort into YouTubing stuff, because it's like I did it in the 90s before YouTube. And then in the 2000s when YouTube was blowing up, I was like 20. I had kids starting at 23. I didn't have the fucking time for it, you know? And now it's oversaturated. So I feel like I missed that window that I would have really fit in. But anyways, I did want to ask you if you had a preference to analog or digital photography, or if you've even experimented with analog.
Yeah.
Like dark rooms and all that shit.
I started shooting film last fall. Yeah. So I had a few cameras from family, so it all comes back to the family.
Because it can be expensive to get some of those old cameras, right?
Correct. So I was given 3 cameras, two from my great aunt and one from my mom. Basically just using those. The film itself is also very expensive. Shout out, I'm going to try to do this throughout. Shout out local. Yeah. Shout out to Galaxy Camera. They're at Catherine and Bank. That's where I go to get my film developed and pick up film. Ali, who works there, is one single guy, does it all by himself, and he is one of the nicest people I've ever been served by in the photography video like field in Ottawa.
Cool.
So
sounds like a cool guy to interview.
Yeah. Oh, he is. Oh,
have you had him on your show? Or?
I asked him, but I don't think it was his. I don't think it was his style.
It's not for everybody. Yeah.
And I mean, like I give the offer to people sometimes, and it's up to them if they choose or not to. Up in the air before it goes on the air. And so
second pun.
Let's see how many I can do. Check.
I love puns.
Oh my!
Those are pretty new too. Morgan can't hear that. My dad did a little badunch.
Thank you. That's so.
He wasn't expecting that one. Clearly,
no. Yes, I've been shooting a bit of analog, and the reason I started doing it is because I had these cameras and I just wanted to try it. I was actually super intimidated because of the whole nature of, it's literally like you got one shot, or you have multiple shots in one roll, but it's like you have one and then it's done. One done, one done.
Well, the complexity level between a digital camera and just point and shoot kind of. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle the art people are probably able to make with digital cameras, but there's so many more steps involved in, even developing the film and all that stuff. So,
and you mentioned darkroom, so that's one thing I haven't done myself yet, is like my own developing. I would like to try at one point. It does involve a lot of chemicals and a lot of patience and a lot of very fine tuning.
It seems kind of archaic at this point too, there probably aren't that many around compared to what there used to be.
Oh, totally. And I mean, the thing is like I go to the people who enjoy developing the film. Ali at Galaxy Camera, he ships it off sometimes to another person that he works with, and it's it makes it easier for me to just do that. It's not cheap though, it's not cheap to buy film, it's not cheap to develop film. Whereas with a digital camera, it's
unlimited essentially.
But then it's kind of like, obviously if I'm going to shoot like a show, comedy, music, etc., I would likely bring my digital camera. But there are some photographers in the city who sometimes exclusively shoot with film and go out and do these events.
Well, I wonder if it sort of inherently brings a level of like, I'm only going to shoot the great shots, as opposed to like with digital, all of a sudden you're like, I'll just shoot it all because there's no limit, like whatever,
Oh, you're totally bang on, because that's what I realized when I started shooting film, and then I went back to this, and I was like, okay, my patience is actually adapted. Like I've adapted my patience to the idea of doing it when I really need to versus just taking a burst just for the sake of doing that. And that's kind of one thing I've slowly started doing more and more over the years. But then when I started shooting film, it was like a complete halt and like a readjustment of exactly what photography means to me. But it's also been something that like, it's been something during the pandemic to also give me something a bit new to do, a new perspective, while also doing something very familiar.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, for sure. I think a lot of people have been doing stuff like that during the pandemic, sort of touching on an interest, but really embellishing it a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. So overall though, it's something that I've been really enjoying. I'm still learning a lot about it. I was debating whether or not today to bring my film camera or this one, but I knew I wanted to bring this one to make sure to get like a shot that I knew would come out very, very well with the film one. I'd be like, I don't know how it's going to turn out on it, but I wanted something guaranteed to make sure.
I'm glad. No, it's cool, man. I was stoked to see that you brought that.
If I could make a comment.
Did I use embellishing right or no?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. My dad's like my grammar check for sure.
Well, one thing I just like to point out between digital and the old analog photography for me is that when you are in the dark room, that's your Photoshop. Right? You can do a lot in the dark room to
Editing, so to speak.
Yeah, like if part of the shot was a little underexposed or whatever, you can do things in there. Dodging, it's called, to increase or decrease the exposure when you're developing. And you can put filters and different things in there. And now you just do it all in Photoshop, of course.
Now you can have dog ears.
Yeah, but to your comment, sorry, I don't usually talk this much. But,
No, you're always welcome to.
To your comment about, now you can just take all these shots and things like that. I think digital photographers, though, also still have to be thinking a little bit like analog, because if you take a ton of shots, you've got a ton of material you've got to go through
to sift through
post,
it,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe that's great to find the perfect shot, but it's also going to eat up a ton of your time. And if you're commercial or whatever, that's money. So
I've noticed that too. Like I was just talking before the show about how I've done some voice recording auditions, and it's really easy with our new setup here. But at the same time, I try not to just do like 40, because then I've realized how long it takes to go through and find the best one afterwards.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and it comes back to the traditional saying, quality over quantity.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And that's one thing that I always try to think about, and especially when I'm going out to take photos now at comedy and music, and being like, I don't have to sit here and just take a bunch of photos. Because I will also say what you were saying made a great point, because I also still want to go and enjoy the experience as well. I want to be like,
well, that's what I was speaking to when people start getting paid for stuff that can often distort that, where they now have like, this is paying my bills, so I don't have time to like love it as much.
And maybe they're like, I have to take so many now. I have to take so many pictures.
It amps up the stress associated with this thing that used to be a pleasurable experience,
And that's why, like, if I'm going to see a comedy show, if I'm taking photos at a show, music, comedy, an event, otherwise, I still want to be able to enjoy myself while still also doing what I'm there to do. So if I'm taking photos, I take a few of you performing, but I also want to be able to kick back and be like, oh, that's a great song. Or I want to be able to, because if I'm taking snaps, I'm not going to be able to enjoy your jokes as much as I could if I'm totally locked in, because I'm going to be distracted. Or even during the musical Stringing You Along series that Janelle did at Eddie's, like, that's so cool. And I was definitely not in the zone being able to enjoy the full thing.
Yeah.
I did at some points, but
you miss out, like, in some ways.
But it's like, but there are some points where I'm able to still, at least, like, instead of just constantly being through the lens, I'm still able to kind of detach a bit and just be like, I can now just relax.
Be a part of the room still, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember Janelle got me a beer, and like I had a beer I was sipping on here and there.
Was it Juicy Ass?
I think it was.
That's
actually
their like flagship one they push over there.
It was the Flying Monkey
Pretty
Juicy
good.
Ass,
It
right?
is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, that was when I was starting to get into. It's an IPA, right?
Yeah, and for hoppy beers, I find that one goes down pretty smooth. Like it's
exactly. So I remember trying it, and I was like, "Do I like IPAs now?"
Yeah, kind of. Am I like every other white guy in his 30s? No, did I just jump into that demographic? I wanted to ask you if you had a favorite subject to shoot between people, animals, landscapes, if there's something that really calls to you more than the others.
So people, for sure.
People. I almost kind of thought you might say that, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason I like shooting music, concerts, comedy, events of any kind, I mean, I take pictures of my cat a lot.
Well, there you go. Yeah, like I didn't know what else you do. I've seen some of your pictures, but for all I know, you're taking like beach photos or something. Like I don't know. I just wanted to know a little bit more about the different subjects.
You should see my selfies.
Oh yeah.
No, you shouldn't. I'm just joking. You shouldn't see my selfies. I take a bunch. I love people, and it comes just down to the fact that I mean, you know, I'm very much a people person, but there's something about like working around people and being around people, talking like this, doing my show, that if like I don't need anything more outside of food and water and in general. But I mean, it gives me so much energy and inspiration to be around people and to be around things that people are doing. And also, like, not just everything, right? I'm not just going to go up to like a random person and like have a random person just completely. But when I get
some people do that though.
Correct. Some
They
people
do that,
do
like I don't know what you call that style of photography, but where you take a picture of a random guy eating a bagel and it's like, it's art.
Street photography is definitely like up in that. I don't.
Or candid photography, I would say.
Candid photography,
yeah.
I love that. And street photography is something that I've kind of done a little bit of, but mostly with people I know.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten to know more people in the community, that's what has totally inspired me with the idea of like taking photos of people. And, you know, when I go back and edit them and I look and I'm just like, oh, like that person was so funny, or that person was so nice. And
or they had such a great singing voice or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really, truly feel inspired by so many different people. And that's why I love the community. And I also feel like there can never be enough love for people doing what they love. And if I can just be one little factor in a single city, in a single community, doing that, even if it's doing my radio show, which reaches who the heck knows how many people, I really don't know. I just like, I put it out there. If it's like one person listening, if it's 50 people listening, if it's my grandma listening, who she does all the time, and I appreciate that.
My mom is the same way, yeah.
So the point is like I'm doing it because I care about the people.
Yeah.
And
it brings you joy.
Totally. Yeah. And it's one of those things that it took me a long time to figure it out.
To do it for the right reasons, kind of.
Yeah. And I mean, like I didn't start doing my show at CKCU because of that. I started doing my show because I wanted to play music I liked. But then I was like, why am I here? What is the purpose? Like, and I took some time and I went through some, I guess you could call them quarter life crises or whatever.
Metamorphosis of some kind. Yeah,
exactly. Like a Pokemon, I evolved. and I went back to doing this show, what I'm doing now, Curiosity. It comes down to the people. Like that is the underlying theme is just people.
And community.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we will get into your show because I've got a lot of questions for that. But
yeah, no worries.
One last photography question,
cool.
Because you had mentioned us editing some in, and I wanted to do that to get some of your work in the show for anyone who's watching on YouTube. Do you have a specific snapshot that you're most proud of?
That is a big question.
Or one of several, whatever. But like one that like just what comes to mind when I say like, hey, what's a photo that you look at that you took and you're like, fuck yeah. You know? I
mean, looking back, especially before the pandemic hit, I used to work at Bar Robo.
Okay.
In Chinatown. I worked there for 6 months. That was my first stint, like doing like a bit more than barista stuff, which I did at Starbucks. And then I started bartending a bit.
I thought I saw you DJing somewhere too.
So basically, yeah. So at Robo, I did a bunch of things. I was doing door for shows. I was taking photos at shows.
Hosting stuff.
I did a CKCU event there as well for fundraising. And I also did a Bring Your Own Vinyl night.
Nice.
So that didn't end up going out the way we expected. That's the one I saw
you with the No Doubt.
You got it. Where I was like dressed up in like a big red onesie.
Yeah.
I was like trying to make
funky
it
fresh. Yeah.
Funky fresh. That's right. So working at Robo was a great experience. I worked there because I love working in service front-facing roles because it goes...
Again, yeah, everything you were already saying about just
exactly.
people, person.
I don't need to repeat myself there.
No, not it. Hey, man, it just shows you're passionate.
But there's a photo I took that I was just recently looking at, which was of Robo before I worked there, when I had first discovered it. And it just kind of shows this scene that really, really speaks to me as someone who and really enjoys going to cafes and really enjoys local spots.
It's like your happy place.
Correct.
Almost, yeah.
And that's one of them that I really, really look at, and I'm really...
And you can send me that to throw it up?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
And I think it also speaks something that also represents the community. Even though Bar Robo's no longer there, it's now Drip House. My plan is, though, to go into Drip House and take a photo from the same perspective.
Oh, cool. It's been renovated and changed around, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, man, you should see it. Like at night, the bar lights up like in The Shining, and the bar scene when he goes in, it's like very bright from the ground up. And at Drip House, it's like a marble, I think it's marble, and the bar's illuminated.
Wow.
Very different vibe than Robo. Robo was a bit more, kind of like simple. Like you walked in, it wasn't classy or anything like that. It was just, you walk in, you know, there could be a show. You can just go in and have a beer, whatever.
Yeah, I got invited to stuff there a bunch of times, but I never actually went.
Yeah, it was honestly like a traditional. You walk in and it's exactly what you would expect like a cafe bar to be in Chinatown. This place though, they took it up a notch, and it's highly recommend. Maybe we can
So
go
it's
there
better now in your opinion? It looks like way more professional and stuff.
It's different. They definitely, like, whoever renovated it definitely put in a lot of resources to make it look a certain way. If you're ever interested, maybe we can go there for a drink.
Hey,
and they've also got,
You
apparently,
picked the time I'm there.
they've got some good cocktails apparently. So I'm very curious about that. Anyways, going right back. Yeah, the photo is one of my faves just because it captures my experience, the community experience, and also the pre-pandemic experience. Very much the pre-pandemic experience.
Yeah, it's almost like living in two different worlds for sure. It's such a
for real.
transformative thing that's happened.
I'm like looking at a photo. I'm like, oh my gosh, that person behind the bar is not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Oh god, yeah, I don't even know if I want to get into all this. You know, it's such a divisive issue. That's what I hate, is that like people that you might meet and still have so much in common with, you're now like team vax or team no vax. It's the same as the Republicans and the Democrats. There's always been this, let's put people into groups and make
now
them
there's the
fucking hate the other
sub-factor.
group. And yeah, now it's much more pressing because it's like, this affects, grandma's gonna die. Don't hang out with Kyle, fucking anti-vaxxer. And like, I kind of agree. You know, I'm vaccinated. I just broke this guy's leg. Look at what happens when you don't wear a mask. No.
Your leg will fall off.
Oh shit! You know what, man? Let's pivot to fucking Norm Macdonald, because we were talking about this before we started, and I'm really glad that you brought him up because you know
Macdonald.
we're Ottawa here. We're talking Ottawa comedy. We can't not say a massive kudos to everything he did for comedy at large. But who doesn't have a fond memory of laughing at some sort of comedic thing that he put forth, whether it's a movie like Dirty Work, his show Norm, which was on for a couple seasons at least, you know, SNL, obviously, Weekend Update, all his appearances on Letterman and Conan, and just the amount of times I've just binged him late night and felt like warm at the end, and just, I don't know, man, no one did it like him, right? It's fucking irreplaceable.
That's one thing that I brought it up just because I was I've tried to talk to a few comics about it, and I don't want to like impose about like, and I know some comedians are also probably feeling a bit sensitive about it because some people they grew up with
Some
him.
knew him, yeah.
Exactly. Like Howard Wagman, right, is the owner of Yucks.
And they threw up that tweet from Norm in like 2017 saying that Howard chased him down Spark Street. And essentially, it sounds like his comedy might not have taken off. He was feeling down about his set and might have never done comedy again. And Howard chased him down. And Howard, I can't guarantee it'll be this season, but it should be. It's looking to be the season finale. Howard's going to come on. So just for anyone interested.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it'll be
so
like,
cool.
Late October, I guess.
So that to me, even like seeing that tweet, that comes back to, you know, I guess the theme of this conversation is community, because like that to me is exactly what community does and should do, is that uplifting. Because I you know, that's showing that it's like
It fosters the best in people, yeah.
exactly, and it's like you inspire, and despite Norm becoming very, very famous, like probably one of the most famous comedians on the planet, also, but rightfully so, like incredibly funny. He started and had roots, and probably I don't think he never forgot about his community, based on even how he talked about things and how he did interviews. I could really feel that it was always there.
Yeah.
And that was really special to me. After I read his book, which was a few months ago, I read his book, based on a true story or something like that. It was funny. There was a lot of like death and cancer in there too. Then I was like, was there like some...
Well, he had it for 9 years, according to everything in the news. So
Right. And that book came out only a few years ago.
There you go.
And I was like...
I remember someone was sharing something about him discussing what he wanted his funeral to be like and stuff. So yeah, I mean, you don't live with cancer for almost a decade as a comedian who has little filter, as most comedians do, I would think, and not have it bleed through into your material, you know?
The one thing I wanted to say as well before I read that book, so this is before we were chatting live, I was mentioning how he has a bit of a special connection to me this year. I didn't start actually watching his comedy fully until this year.
Okay.
So till earlier in 2021. I knew about him. I watched a few things. I watched
some stuff.
I watched the Moth joke many times.
The Moth, yeah.
Who hasn't seen the Moth joke, right? But I will say that it was after my... I broke up with my ex-girlfriend earlier this year, And that was it wasn't awful, but it was like we had this whole pandemic experience together, and then we ended things, and I found support through Norm Mcdonald.
That's amazing, man.
And it was like, I remember one night I was just kind of feeling bummed out, and I was just like, hey, I was messaging my friend Zach, and I was like, hey Zach, like, you got any comedy you can recommend me? Because my friend Zach he loves comedy, so I was like, give me something. You're a resource. And he sent me a clip by Norm, and I went into a rabbit hole all the way through his podcast on YouTube, similar to what you do here, like what he was doing before he got picked up by Netflix.
Yeah, he had a show for a while. Yeah, I remember that.
And it's so funny. Like, he just kind of like mocks his guests, and they mock each other, and then he gets them to read jokes that are really stupid. And I was like, this is exactly what I needed. And I fell in love with him, fell in love with Adam Egget, as well as a bunch of other guests that he had on. And that's my connection. It's very simple but there was something really special about lying in bed at night, kind of feeling existential, and just having Norm Mcdonald there with me.
Well, and the ability for comedy to elevate you out of a shit emotional place, you know, like that's something that is true of comedy, any good comedy, but I could see very much how he would be able to do that. You know, he was one of the best. He had such a unique delivery. Everything about him was so... The one person from Ottawa who reminds me of him a bit, who's been on this show, do you know who I'm going to say or no?
Not Chris Boris.
I can see why you say that too, actually. Okay. Yeah, I thought that in recent days, watching a lot of Norm stuff. I was like, it makes me think of Chris Boris. Tavis, I was going to say, Tavis Maplesden. He has that same deadpan kind of like he doesn't waver. Yeah. He's just on it, you know?
Every time I've seen Tavis perform,
Tavis Maplesden, for people who aren't aware, episode 11, I want to say.
He's so funny. Mm-hmm. Not only is he incredibly funny, but he basically feels regularly consistent whenever I see him perform, and it's almost, I'm pretty sure it's almost always new stuff. And
he tries a lot. When he came on the show, I did a lot of research on him. Not to pivot from Norm to Tavis, but again, if you go watch Tavis, you'll see like he must have been influenced by Norm to some degree. And Tavis was doing stuff where he would like do a whole bit where he's playing on piano, and another one where he brought a bass up, I think. Like, he's always trying something new. And when he made me laugh my ass off on this show when he came on. I think it was episode 12, actually.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Like, so that's again, like, one of the reasons why like I wanted to have you on my show originally was all this. Like, going from talking about Norm Mcdonald to then talking about Tavis, you're doing exactly what inspires me, right? And I think I mentioned that to you before. Like, the idea that you're pulling together people in the community, you're doing exactly what I'm trying to also do.
You do the same thing, 100%.
And that's why what you're doing is so awesome. And I'm so happy to be here, man.
Thank you for coming, dude. I'm happy to have you.
And then, the Norm Mcdonald stuff, you know, like, it's, despite him being a bigger figure, it all still comes back to the fact that he inspired community. He's an Ottawa guy.
Yeah.
You know? It's like,
and again, shout out to Howie, because if you think about all the people who came through Ottawa Yuck Yucks that Howie obviously had an influence on, Tom Green, John Doerr, Mike McDonald, Norm McDonald.
Crazy.
It's great. And it shows, because if you hang out with Howard or you see him at a show, he always watches like a hawk. Like, the gears are turning always, and he knows good comedy, man. He's a smart fucking dude.
Can I again, sorry.
You interject with Norm. I figured I was actually going to throw to you because I knew you'd have something to say about Norm.
Well, besides agreeing with everyone else about just how funny that guy really was and what a grasp he had on what comedy is, the thing that made me laugh the most of what I've seen him do was an interview with Conan where Courtney Thorne-Smith, who used to be on that show Jim, you know that?
Was that Belushi's brother? Yeah, Jim Belushi.
Right. So she's a blonde actress, fairly well known. Anyway, she's on there promoting whatever the movie is or something. And Norm had been the earlier guest, and he was still on the couch with Andy.
I've seen this, yeah.
Yeah, and so if people want to laugh, look up Conan with Courtney Thorne-Smith and Norm Macdonald, and you will laugh, because that was some funny stuff that they did.
Because he's just kind of crushing on her, right? But not in a creepy way, from what I remember.
There's a little of that early on, but later on, it's where they're talking about the name of her movie and stuff like that. And, And then at one point, Conan goes to him, "Do something with that, you freak."
And he still made it
and
work.
He does.
I saw this the other night.
It was hilarious.
It was something with the word bored.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Don't spoil it.
No, anyways, I don't really remember it. I saw it the other night. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just heard that in Conan's voice so easily there. With that,
exactly.
Freak. That was such
I actually just watched last night. Norm apparently had a running gag for a week on Letterman where at the end of each episode they would say Norm Mcdonald was supposed to be here, but he got caught up in the storm, I guess that was going on. And then at the end of the episode you'd see him kind of like, oh, no, I'm here. And in the last one that he like trips and falls on all the band people with like flutes and shit. And then finally, I guess the Friday he comes on as a guest and they did like a flashback of all the 4 previous nights and his weird appearances. It was just such a great running gag, as much as I'm not a huge Letterman fan in some ways.
I love, honestly, running gags like that are sometimes they can be amazing, like especially if they're stretched out over a long time. I love it. And then the punchline. And that's what Norm does, right? The moth joke is the clear example.
Yeah. It's the stalling, like how far can you take it? And I would say I've seen the same from John Doerr quite a bit. I've seen him a few times live, and he was on this show as well. But one of the jokes I told him, it was sometime I went and saw him live, and he did this bit where he came out and for like 10 minutes he just said, "All right, okay," you know, like when everyone's like applauding nonstop, and it was like, "All right, okay," and he just said those 2 words in different inflections for like 15. No, maybe it wasn't that long. It felt like 10 minutes. It was probably only 5, but it's like, "All right, okay," and like he just kept changing the way he was saying it. And it was fucking hysterical. And then it would stop being funny, but then it would come back around. Like a lot of Family Guy jokes are like that, you know. It's like how far can you push it? And it's weird when you get to the point where it stops being funny, but then you push it a little further and it's funny again because you're like, they're still doing it. Like, I don't know. Comedy's such a complex beast, you know?
And that's honestly, I love it. I'm inspired by so many people in the community. Again, Norm Macdonald being one who is part of the community, just as much like Alanis Morissette's part of the music community here in a way. But
a guest I would love to interview. I've reached out a couple times. We'll see.
That would be amazing.
Well, my mom used to, Alanis Morissette's mom used to do yoga with the old folks home that my mom used to work as their recreational physiotherapist, right? Yeah.
What?
So
look at these connections.
I'll get my mom to hook it up. Maybe. I don't know.
If you ever have her on the show, please tell her Eric with a K says hi.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it, man. No, moms are great for that. Actually, I had Alona Smythe on the program, and I talked to her about another time my mom kind of helped me out because my mom was in this crafting group and found out that Ilona Smythe's mom was in the group, like they were friends or whatever, but then she realized the connection and then basically set up like a phone call with me and Ilona. And it was like so awkward because it was like a play date your mom's put together, but I needed the end because I didn't know, I wanted to get more into acting. I still do. And I didn't really know shit all. And she's like the biggest casting director in Ottawa pretty much. So
that's awesome.
But it's funny how moms can have all this hidden power.
and honestly, again, like those connections that's how I've gotten to so many places.
Ottawa's the right size for that shit though, right? For these, it's like, it's big enough that you feel like, oh, we got downtown, we got the suburbs, but it's also, you kind of know everybody. We're like 1 million people, which sounds like a lot, but geographically, that many people in the space we have, like you find a lot of damn connections, small world moments, you know?
Totally. And again, like we're so, like Ottawa's big enough that it's spread out to the point where you have your own pockets where people are going to kind of stay in those pockets.
Yeah, they congregate there more.
Like I'm in Centertown. I'm going to see a lot of the people in Centertown over and over and over and over again. But
then you find some cool connection with one of those people with somebody from, you know, Orleans that you also know. And it happens all the time here, man.
Totally.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about you being so into music and comedy. I wanted to know if you play any instruments and if you've ever tried stand-up.
So good questions. I used to play the drums. And funny enough,
you look like a drummer. I don't know why, but like you remind me of several drummers that I've known.
I'm just like, it's because I'm going like this all the time.
No, I don't know what it is. It's something about the vibe. You seem like someone who would be on time.
I love. I'm very much
as much as you were late for the podcast. No,
I was about to bring that up. Oh crap,
dude! I'm literally late for everything. I'm the last person who would criticize for being late.
I love drums. Rock band got me into drumming. Love drumming. I'm gonna be planning to buy an electronic drum kit soon.
Those are cool.
Just because I'm in an apartment building, so like having an acoustic kit not quite feasible.
Yeah. Even playing hard enough on a digital set, you might get some complaints.
I have to adapt my apartment. Let's say.
Oh, you're gonna put some egg cartons up on the walls.
I got to do something.
Yeah.
The walls are. I think the walls are relatively okay. It'll be the floors, especially because the tapping is going to be going through.
That's true. Yeah.
So in terms of drumming, never taught, self-taught, but I just love.
You're rhythmic.
I love. Yeah, okay. I love it. I love rocking out to songs I like. I'm trying to start to learn guitar. I started playing years ago, but didn't
follow through.
No.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who just moved into my building who's a local musician. Shout out Sean Sissons, aka My Hill. He is very, very, very talented. And I'm hoping to play a bit with him, and maybe him and I will jam at some point. I'm not looking to necessarily make music. I just want to have fun with it, you know. That's
the reason to play music.
Yeah, and I'm speaking of comedy.
You're working on your first set? No.
So the other night I went to Swizzle's open. What was it? What is it called again? It's like their workshop, right, on Mondays.
Oh yeah, they do have a Saturday night show. Because maybe they've always had a Saturday night show, but whenever I went to Swizzle's, I always thought Monday night was their night.
They do have one now that David Haddad and Andrew Wambolt are doing, like this, like
both awesome dudes, both slated to come on the show very soon.
And they're both kind of doing like this, like or the late night, like where Andrew's the sidekick and David's the host.
Yes. Oh, dude, I wanted to go to that so bad.
Well, if you want to go, if I'm off, not working, let's go check it out.
I'm so down
because I think they're both together. They're dynamic.
I did a show with David a couple weeks ago, and he was by far, in my opinion, the funniest dude. It was in a little dive bar or whatever, but like he crushed, man. And I'd never really seen him. I'd met him many times, but I don't know that I'd ever seen him do stand up, and he was just on fire, in my opinion. Again,
I saw him at the Dom. He was on a show last week.
Yeah. Dylan Parker show, yeah.
Yeah, Dylan Parker show. He was actually on my show.
I was going to say, I noticed that when I was researching this, and you played my song again during that episode. Was that in anticipation of you coming on this show?
No, actually. It was just connecting comedians, local comedians who are doing stuff that is beyond comedy. So
Dylan's a good guy, yeah.
And I played your song as well as Lewis Hill's, one of Lewis Hill's tunes.
Another great dude. These are all comedians you should look up if you don't know these guys, because they're all great.
So the whole thing about doing comedy, I was at Swizzles, which, again, they do these Monday nights where I guess comedians go and kind of workshop some stuff if they
they usually have a couple lotto spots and
right. And so I was there just by myself hanging out. I saw Mitch, chatted with him for a bit, got to know who else did I chat with that night? I knew Emmett Morrison from his Mod Night.
Oh, he's like a one-liner comic, eh?
Yeah. So I chatted with him a bit, and then I got to meet Jeffrey Davis for the first time.
He's hilarious.
Yes, totally. And I was chatting with all of them, and I started thinking, I was like, you know, like I was like, I love what these guys are doing. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm necessarily like a super funny person. Like in conversation, I can come up with quips and puns, but I also know puns are not going to fly if I'm like, but they got to be like, not.
I get what you're saying, though. It's much different than like conversational humor is in no way the same as like a prepared, 6 minutes that you're bringing to the stage.
Totally. So like, but at the same time, I really started actually thinking about it. I was like, I might actually want to try it because
you should.
Just because it seems there's also, like the adrenaline, right? Like when I get up and I'm singing, when I go to karaoke and I'm singing a song, even though I've done it many, many, many times, I still always feel a thrill.
That rush, yeah.
And I'm like,
alcohol is usually involved.
Yeah. Usually it starts off with one seltzer, and then the next time it's three seltzers.
You're like, I don't want to go to sleep. I just wanna. What?
Are you singing? Don't Want to Miss a Thing?
I was trying to do like a drunk guy doing that song. Yeah, I was trying to imagine what you would be like 4 White Claws in.
I'd be doing more of the very, 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 very weird David Byrne. It's Talking Heads. Slurring, burning down the house.
Psycho killer.
Yeah, that's what exactly.
Such a weird song, man, but it's funky.
So all things to say, yeah, I want to try, and I want that thrill, the adrenaline of going up there.
The fact that you even said this means you have to do it. Just because, the fact that you have places like Eddie's at your disposal that you know are going to be like a loving environment with a great team and all that, whatever you want to call it, you should do it. Because what's the fucking worst thing that could happen? That's the main reason everyone should try comedy. Because what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yes,
you shit your pants on stage. That's literally the worst thing that can happen. I had a song about that, and it was all about. The chorus was like, "But at least I didn't shit my pants," because I don't know. I don't remember the song now at this point. But
it's so funny because like people always like growing up and watching cartoons, and it was always like the worst thing that you could do, the worst nightmare you could have is waking up on your underwear in school. And I'm like, there's a lot of worse things that can happen, like what you just said. That would be way worse. I'd rather be naked with underwear than have like shit in my pants.
Yeah, because depending on your confidence level, being in front of everybody in your underwear, you might be like, yeah, I've been doing sit-ups, or like, who knows? Like, you might be able to just, some people are super comfortable with their bodies. So
And I don't think anyone would ever be comfortable.
no one's going to try and like own diarrhea underwear. No one's going to try and like, it's a new look. Yeah, sorry, you're just not with it yet.
Haven't you seen the new TikTok trend?
Yeah, exactly. We're eating Tide Pods and shitting our pants.
Oh my!
This is the 2020s. Fuck, man. Okay, yeah, we've been all over the place. I had so many things to talk to you about. Let's get into. Let's talk about your show then, man. Because first of all, plug it. Let people know when they can hear it.
Curiocity, CKCU 93.1 FM in Ottawa. You're going to listen 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. every Monday morning, or ckcufm.com on demand or live. And you can really listen anywhere in the world, but it's always very fun to tune in via the dial if you can, to get the traditional radio experience. It's a lot of fun. And it's community radio, and it's all volunteer. I'm a volunteer there. Around 200 or so volunteers doing a wide variety of different shows. My show is one of them, and there's a lot of really cool stuff on there.
Can you give people a breakdown of your show? Because I found the format was really cool, especially since you're so into biking, because your show is basically like a journey through the city where you make different pit stops, and it's formulated like that's the narrative, which is very cool, I think.
Yeah, so I do that sometimes. Lately, I've had a bit of trouble doing it because I started a new job, and my timing has been a little rougher in terms of being able to actually get out and go places. Excited here. I did bike here, and I was like, I got a bike.
Yeah, he might be the first guest that ever biked here, I think.
Oh, that's a great. And that's why
I don't know, but I'm pretty positive.
I'm enjoying this seltzer. It's a reward for.
There you go.
Luckily, it's a beautiful day, but the biking thing is definitely something I do a lot, just because I want to showcase how much Ottawa has to offer, and also in a way showcasing how easy it is to get to a lot of places, even if you aren't living necessarily super close. And that's like and then I also showing like if I can get there by bike, think about how easy it is to get there by car or by bus.
Yeah.
And then also just bringing people's attention to like, hey, the pandemic is awful, but there's still so many places that deserve support and deserve recognition, and people that deserve recognition. My show basically is like I'm taking people every week on sort of like a little adventure through my show Curiosity, but through Ottawa. And Curiosity.
Yes, I was just going to say, that's worth noting. There, if you want puns.
It comes from, Curiosity, but it's spelt Curiocity.
And then the Instagram is like Ott City, which is even more like OTT. Yeah.
And I basically have it as the O is Ottawa. So it's curious about Ottawa City.
So this isn't like this show doesn't exist in other cities, and this was just your spin on it, or this is just a pure.
Yeah, it's basically just I took the word curiosity, and I was like, I'm very proud of my.
It's very brandable. All I can think is like you could have Curiosity Toronto, Curiosity Halifax, and have correspondence, and then all have like a website where you culminate your findings.
It would be nice if there wasn't already. I think there's already like a trademarked like actual Curiosity like with the CITY.
Shit.
But
it's everything's always fucking taken.
I know.
Internet. God damn you, Google.
But the thing is like imagine I created a new show. I'm like, I'm going to call it Google, and I spell it GEWGLE.
I wonder. I wouldn't fuck with their lawyers.
Exactly. Be like, hey, I heard this community radio station's doing something with
really blowing up. Yeah.
Are they getting paid anything? No. I still think we got to track them down.
Yeah, kill that moral support just in case.
That's right.
In case it blossoms into something lucrative.
So yeah, the show comes from literally the O is like a representation of Ottawa, and I try to get people to. Sometimes it's just like local music, playing a lot of local tunes, supporting local artists. But also chatting with local people and bringing people to places, either myself or bringing people from places to talk about them. And really just, again, it's on community radio. It's a very community-based show. And it did take me quite some time to really get my footing with what I wanted to do.
When did you start the show? We should ask that. And when did you launch things?
I started volunteering there in 2014.
Okay, but when did you actually launch Curiosity?
So maybe like So I started doing the show theme songs in 2014 with two of my friends, Michael and Owen. we all put together basically just like, we were like, oh, what's the theme this week? And we pulled songs together.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like theme songs from shows or something. Okay.
It was like, there was a weekly theme.
That's cool. No, that sounds like a rad show though.
It was okay. It was, the fact that made it fun was that we had 3 very different curated set lists coming together. And then after that, I went on my own to do my show Permanent Waves, inspired by the Rush album of the same name. Because my show was dedicated to almost everything 80s. And I'm fascinated about 80s culture. A lot of my favorite bands come from the 80s, Tears for Fears and New Order, Duran Duran.
Clash.
The Clash.
Clash is amazing.
And even,
so I was going to say, some 80s shit I can't stand, but.
And it's, well, and I got to say, like the whole new wave and punk era of the 80s, love it so much. And I decided to kind
of. Like the Descendants?
Honestly, I'm pretty sure I do. I think I need to.
I only say that because I've been getting into it, not to cut you off, but I've been getting into a deep dive on the Descendants, and it's like.
You're going to have to give me a recommendation of some sort.
Dude, they have a song, I can't remember the name of it, but it's all about, because they're like nerdy dudes, but they're still punk. And the whole song is about like, I ain't got no biceps, I ain't got no safety pins. All the cool things are like, I ain't got no mohawk or whatever. But then it's like all about how they're going to kick ass in class. It's like, gonna kick their asses in class, because he keeps talking about how I got these specs, so they keep kicking my ass. Like he's obviously getting bullied, but I'm gonna kick their asses in class. I'm gonna get good grades, and it's like my kids probably think I'm a wiener when I put that on, but I'm like, it's a good message. It's like, fuck stupid people that are caught in that drama of like not really thinking things through, and like here's what's really important: like enlighten yourself, gain knowledge, advance yourself, and don't be dragged down by stupid bullshit you're not even going to think about in a couple of years.
That was a tight description.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm probably fucking up the lyrics, but in essence, and they also have a great song called, I think it's called American, but it's all about, it's amazing because it's a conflicting admission of how he has a torn pride but also loathing for the country that he loves. He says, he talks about it's like it's the land of Otis Redding and all these people that he likes, but it's also the land of the KKK, and like it's this really torn, amazing piece that I think I put it up when the insurrection shit was happening on the Capitol, because it was all it could make me think of was like, this song is so.
I'm gonna have to take a peek at that, because that's another thing about my show that I absolutely love. What I call directions throughout my show, be it like meeting someone, hearing different songs. I love it when people give me songs to play, and I'll actually be more than happy to play one of the
chorus
songs.
To that song is listen up now, I'll tell you who I am, just another stupid American. You don't want to listen, you don't want to understand, so finish up your drink and go home.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, that song, all their shit. I have not heard a Descendants song that I didn't like, because
that's amazing.
You can tell it's coming from such an honest, emotional source.
Oh, you're hyping it up for me. So you're gonna have to, like, before I leave, I'll make sure to like add 1 or 2 of them to my playlist, and I'll listen to it on the bike ride home.
Well, I got into the Descendants because of Sublime, because Sublime was one of the first bands that really like I fell in love with when I was 13, 14, and there's a song on 40 Ounce to Freedom called Hope, which is pretty much this. It's a straight, very true cover of the Descendants version, just a little bit sped up, a little heavier punk. And ever since cool. I love how bands will get you into other bands like that. So
that kind of brings it to when you came on my show, and we talked.
There we go.
We talked a lot about Sublime, and you obviously I played Oliver's song "Just Chill," which is the
theme song and namesake of this show.
Exactly, which very much has, like, even in that, like I can hear the inspiration from like Sublime, and it's amazing. Like when you gave me that little context about the song, I forget which song that we played, the one that you.
Oh, that was like a weird jam, like radio show they did. But that one's one of my favorite recordings of the band, like, ever.
I'd never heard it, and I was like, damn, like this is exactly why I love doing my show, because I also get introduced to so many different artists and bands. Like when you brought up Biff Naked, I know Biff Naked, but I didn't really know Biff Naked as well as I did after you showed me the song, because then I went and I was like, I'm going to give Biff Naked a chance. I'm going to
because when someone you have a relationship with, like a positive one, or you trust, sort of bequeaths this, like, here's this thing I like, then you're so much more likely to want to be like, oh, well, I like that person, and they're saying they like this, so maybe I'll, it gives, and there's so much content out there these days, especially, that how else are you going to choose what to listen to than going on recommendations of people whose opinions you respect,
Totally. And that's one of the reasons why, like, whenever I have people come on my show, is to ask them, like, what do you like? What do you want to hear? What inspires you? Because not only does it give me stuff to play on my show that is connected to the person I'm talking to? But guess what? I love music. I'm going to discover some new stuff, and I'm going to add some stuff to my playlist.
Yeah, you seem like you have like a wide variety of tastes, musically speaking.
I like everything. Well,
Yeah. I'm sure there's
within reason.
everybody has some songs, but you're not like someone who's very like, you know, some guys are, I only like metal, or I only like hip hop, or I only like punk, and I never got that. It to me that always screams to someone who's so desperate for an identity that if they go balls to the wall with this one genre, it's not cool. It just means you're not being open-minded. So, but it is, you do then gain this badge where you get to be like, I'm so punk, look at me, everything about me is fucking punk. And it's like, oh, you know what's really punk? Also liking reggae. And I mean, a lot of punks do like that shit. I'm not trying to throw punks under the bus, but you know what I mean? I'm just saying anyone who goes so hard into one thing and really they're limiting themselves from the broader perspective, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's okay to be a huge fan of like a certain band or a certain genre, but I try to recommend people to be, like you said, the word open-minded is, and it's not like you have to listen to something and pretend to like, you know, you don't have to pretend to like Lady Gaga, you don't have to pretend to like, Kenny,
but don't say all pop music sucks, because that's ridiculous. You know?
Exactly. Because there's actually some amazingly made pop music. There's some amazingly made country music.
Yeah,
and like I'm personally not a big fan of a lot of the country music that goes, you know, like, hey, we're drinking beer, blah blah blah. But there's some that is actually about that. That's also pretty good.
Yeah,
it's like. And the same with like Eric Church. I gotta say, like, I've been listening a bit more country lately. I like Eric Church a lot. Been listening to his stuff. Huge fan of Sturgill Simpson.
I know these names, but I'm not a big country guy. I get like Johnny Cash. I like Southern rock, like CCR and Leonard Skinner and shit. But
and I don't usually talk about country, but just to really show like that's like
your diverse musical.
Well, and I just again like I can one day I can be like I'm into this, I'm into this, I'm into this, but I just kind of let the, you know, that's why I got this tattoo. I just let things shuffle, you know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I got a little tattoo there. It's a shuffle icon.
I always forget about my stupid wrist tattoos.
This one I like because
this is just a Sagittarius, like the archer, you know.
Are you a Sagittarius?
Yeah, I am. December 6th.
To that.
What are you? December what?
November 23rd. I'm right.
Oh, you're a late November guy.
Right on the cusp.
At least you're not a Scorpio. No, just kidding. There's certain ones. I don't know how much I believe in that shit, but my mom's pretty heavy into it, so I've always had those influences.
You're the first Sagittarius I've met in a long time.
You want to hear something crazy?
Go for it.
For people who may doubt astrology, as I do myself, my ex-wife and I, according to astrology, we're like the worst match. She's a Cancer. I'm a Sagittarius. Look it up. I'm not gonna speak to the details of that, but I remember that. We break up, obviously. Yeah, well, if you know me, like I'm not with my ex-wife. We are on great terms. Yes. I always say that because she's a good mom and all that. But we end up getting with new partners. And Kelly, my fiance, she's born 4 days difference in December. So she's December. Well, I'm not going to say our birthdays, I guess. But we're 4 days apart in December.
Sagittarius as well?
Yes. And she ends up with a Cancer that's born 4 days apart. I'm not, like, you can't make this shit up. And you know, we're all going along swimmingly. We're all in happy, great relationships. So it's just, that to me was enough to go, really?
That's pretty
My
funny.
Divorce, I mean, there's other factors. We got married young and stuff, but like my divorce was with my supposed worst partner. And then we both end up with our supposed best partners and everything's like way better and we love our lives now. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I mean, I can't speak for them, I guess, but they seem happy.
That's honest,
you know?
But the coincidences of that.
Yeah, it was enough to at least make me go like, all right, maybe there's some truth to this. Maybe it's being over-exaggerated or overhyped by some people. But like anything that's linked to the stars and the cosmos, like that's always going to be bigger than us. So like, I don't know. And you've got like Egyptians and those people that used to build things based on, you know, the body of the celestial bodies and all that. So there must be some truth to that. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, you know, talking about open-mindedness, that's something that, I mean, you know, I talking about anything supernatural or celestial, alien, like I'm very open-minded about all of that stuff. I'm very open-minded about the fact that maybe there are ghosts, maybe not.
Ghosts is an interesting one. I feel like anyone who denies aliens is a possibility, I'm like, how am I even talking to you? Like, are you that knowledgeable that you're going to discount the rest of the fucking universe?
Correct.
Which literally is like 99% compared to Earth, or probably more. It's probably like 99.9997 or something like that. But you're going to discount all that and say there's no chance intelligent life is out there. Whether or not intelligent life can reach us or has interacted with us or our governments in the past is a whole other question. But people who are just like, nope, fucking Adam and Eve, bro. I'm like, okay. So incestuous, that's what we're going with for spawning all of humanity. Okay, cool. That's much better. I'd rather have been a monkey that was manipulated by an ape than the product of my dad fucking his sister. I don't know. Maybe that's a little anti-Christian sentiment there, but
don't worry. You know what? We all come from somewhere.
Well, I went to Catholic school till I was in grade 8. I feel like I have some right to speak on these things that were shoved down my throat.
I was baptized.
Luckily, not literally, like some Catholic schoolboys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm channeling Norm right now, I guess. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of in the element.
It's amazing. I love it. Honestly, I love this conversation. Is so fun, man. You're such a great host, and
I think you were there. I had a bit about Jesus that, like, I'll say it here in podcast form because I remember I kind of stopped doing.
Wait, is this Janelle's comedy?
Yeah, it was one of them. I had a bit about Jesus, and I feel conflicted because I went to Catholic school till I was in grade 8, and they instill Catholic guilt in you. Like, I literally, after I did that, I would always be like, oh, am I going to fucking hell now? But they laughed pretty hard, and like, it was a good bit about how, like, if God knew Jesus's whole plan, and this is something that comes up in the Bible, like, especially as Jesus got older, he basically told him, like, you're going to die for their sins, and this is from what I remember. I may be paraphrasing the Bible, this book that's been manipulated over 2,000 years, so, you know, take it for what it's worth. But he knew how Jesus was going to die. And yet, out of all the deaths he could have chose for his son, he picked one that was related to his occupation. The guy was a carpenter, and you're going to nail him to wood? It just seemed like, and then I would go on to be like, you know, do you think Jesus was ever on the cross? And then he just kind of turned over and was like, oh, is this mahogany? I would have gone with a cedar myself. Or, you know, like, and then I would talk about how it was so ridiculous. That would be like if you were working at a Dairy Queen and then you died in a blizzard on the way home, you know, or like you worked at McDonald's and you got hit by a Big Mac truck. I don't know. I haven't done this bit in a while, but
funny. The blizzard line. Oh my God.
That's usually where people would get on board, where I felt like even a couple Catholics were like, all right. No, but it's more like I like doing that joke because I guess it's what you're supposed to do on stage, which I don't know that I always do, which is like really asking questions that I'm fucking asking myself. And especially that because I always try to be like I don't like to offend and hurt people's feelings. I really fucking don't. Like I feel I'm an empathetic person, and I always had a mantra, speaking mantras, of be captivating but conscientious. You know,
that's nice.
Where people like go like, oh, that moved me, and I still say I'll do jokes about jerking off or whatever. I'm not like Mr. Clean comic by any means, but that bit I almost want to do it still because I feel like it's a valid question, even if we're just looking at the Bible as like a screenplay. It's just harsh. It's like you could have burned by the stake, or like, I don't know, that'd be better to have your skin burned off or whatever, but just to be a carpenter and then get fucking nailed to a board just seems like such a kick in the nuts.
I really, next time I see you perform live, can you try to pull that one back out?
I mean, I'll do it because I stand by it in principle, but it does make me, again, and it's probably what comics shouldn't do, but I start wondering like, is there going to be someone who brought their aunt out and she's going to be like horrified? And, you know, like I don't really like, as much as I have a lot of beef with the Catholic Church, I don't like stepping on people's right to have their own faith and beliefs. And as long as they're being peaceful and if it brings them joy and helps them be a more productive member of their community, or just not a piece of shit because they have some kind of like faith in life, or, you know what I mean? Because
I totally get it. Yeah.
I don't condone organized religion in a big way, but spirituality seems so imperative to not becoming a fucking purposeless ball of stress. You know?
I hear that, man. And it's also something that gives people structure where there might not be any in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And
you might really need it in some situations.
Totally. And that's funny enough, like when I needed it the most, you know what? I prayed to Norm. That's
oh, I thought you were gonna say like I'm a born again Christian and like yeah, that wouldn't line up with you laughing at everything.
I was kind of bringing it right back to the fact that when I was in a dark place, Norm Mcdonald was there.
But you know what's fucked up about that, man? Because some people will get down and into a dark place, and that's when like Scientology can swoop in, or like there are like these organizations that'll be like, oh, we'll help you up, but now you're like part of this fucking cult essentially. I don't know. I feel bad. I don't want to offend people who are religious, but like
So I totally understand.
the Christians are tuned out a while ago. Let's be honest.
You could always wait for like the next like what are the shows they do? There's like a certain category for comedy shows that are a little more intense, right? Like the triple.
Oh, like X-rated or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not usually me though. I'm like a PG-13 kind of. Like there will be, like I said, jerking off jokes and maybe like there's gonna be shit and fuck and like the language barriers, but I'm never usually the guy who's like trying to like rattle you to your core. I'm like playing some cute song about farts or something.
Honestly, the one thing that I remember that captivated me about your set was the music aspect for sure. Like when you brought out your guitar, and it was the stringing you along one for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, ever since then, I've been trying to lean into that because it's where I feel the most comfortable. And I usually always tell people that I've been playing music like, I don't know, 15, 20 years longer than I've been doing comedy.
Oh,
so
it was just so cool to see the blend of the two things that clearly you love. And
yeah, well, I mean, like Flight of the Conchords, there's been like tons of musical comedians. Weird Al would be another one. There's so many that I've always thought that's such a cool angle. You know, that's such a cool different spin.
You speak my language, Weird Al.
Weird Al. Who didn't grow up with Weird Al that's in our age bracket?
I know.
Were you a Weird Al? Like, I mean, he's still relevant, really. He keeps popping back in.
Oh, totally. You know? And he's also a great dad. Like I see his videos with his daughter, and he's so funny. At least from what I can see. But it's
his daughter's like a full-grown woman now, though, right?
Maybe in teens or late
teens.
Okay. But I mean, like, still, it's just like seeing him being imagine, just think about it, just being like, imagine if Weird Al was your dad.
That'd be weird. But in a good way, yeah. I think he's come up on this podcast before. He really is a great dude, and he was so influential to people in our age group. Like Al Music, where he used to come on Much Music, and he would like murder the VJ by poisoning them or something, and then he would just take over. And I remember there was one point, I hope I haven't said this on here before, but one point where he was reading letters from fans and like requests for videos to play or whatever. And it's like, dear Al, could you please play Buddy Holly by Weezer? And he just said, no, they suck. And just like crumpled it up. And everyone knows it's not a shitty song, but it was still funny.
That's so good. And then he's like, hey, how about this parody version of that song? Hey.
Yeah, probably his own. Yeah. Let's talk then. Well, first of all, before we move on from your show, I did want to say thank you for doing that special on my show and on me because...
Oh, yeah, no worries.
You know, it's a hard grind. Like, I do this show for no money and I work my ass off, and a lot of time it's impeding on other life stuff, but I do it because of these conversations are always a reward in their own. But nevertheless, being acknowledged by someone... Like you were saying, like that one person who's listening to your show, but you can tell they really fucking dig it and it's like resonating. And that's what it's all about, you know? And I also wanted to point out the dude. So I had submitted a few songs to you, one of which was a comedy song. And then as soon as the episode goes up, essentially, some dude comments in the like comment section about, I don't know why I keep seeing this. Gary, I think his name was. I don't know. I keep seeing these comedians and hearing them on the radio, but then you're supposed to be funny. Where's the comedy? And it's like, I had sent you a song, but it didn't make the time cut or whatever.
Yeah.
And this turned out, we think, that this was the same guy who harassed Simone, who had gone on CBC radio, and then this guy called her. He got her phone number, which I guess she had put up on her website. Now it's been taken down. And he just gave her shit about how she should have been more funny. But he did it from this condescending, like mansplaining kind of, or comedian-splaining.
It was very much, yes. It was actually on my show that she
it was your show. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought it was CBC for some reason.
So this guy, avid listener of CKCU.
That makes way more sense.
And he said the same thing, and called her, and very, very odd. It goes to show the nature of putting yourself out there in a way where it's like, sometimes you're going to have these people, and I was just like, and I felt so bad. I gotta say, I
didn't give a fuck. I wrote something back to him, really kind of just being like, "Yo, bro, chill the fuck out." Like,
it was, but especially when he called Simone, because then she shared
that's creepy.
A post about it, and I was like, and I knew that it wasn't like my fault.
You feel partially responsible, though. Yeah.
Of course. I emailed the program director, so I did what I could. So I emailed the program director, being like, "Hey, like this happened. What can I do? What's the possibility of like?" And it was just really just it's a shame it happened, but at the very least, like Simone dealt with it very professionally.
Yes.
She didn't like, you know, she just let him.
She filed like a No, wait. This was another incident. God, I'm mixing it up.
Yes.
She had someone else harass her on the phone. That was a racism thing.
That was way
that was way worse.
This guy was just kind of annoying, right? Like and irritating and just being like.
Yeah, it's still weird to call kind of unsolicited though. It feels very creeper.
Totally.
That's why I'm mixing up those stories, I guess, because to me it still feels like an invasion of like you don't fucking know me. What are you calling me to come and judge me and give me your fucking wisdom? I don't know. Anyways.
No one call me about my guest skills today, please. I will. You can find me on Instagram and message me if you want, though, and you can be like, "Hey, I saw you. Just wanted to say that. Why are you drinking watermelon seltzer?" And I'll be like,
"Why have you never been in a dark room? You call yourself a photographer?
Oh my
you
God.
fucker." No.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
I am going to say, based on you mentioned. So look, White Claw, if you want to sponsor the show, we'd be down. Also, I have to pee. That's kind of where I'm going. So we are going to do a brief break. But before I do, I want to say, fuck you, Mike's Hard Lemonade. It's gonna become a weekly thing.
Are we doing a break?
Hey guys, we're back from the pee break. And before that, moments ago, you would have heard me cursing out a certain beverage company. I'm not going to get into it here. People who are Facebook friends already know what's going on with Mike's Hard Lemonade. I don't want to say anything on the record just yet, but other than fuck Mike's Hard Lemonade, I will say that on the record. Anyways, back to, I did want to talk to you about Ottawa because you said you moved here. So that was one of my questions is, were you born and raised here?
Yes, born in Ottawa.
But you moved away.
Bracebridge, Muskoka.
Bracebridge is Ontario as well?
Yep, in Muskoka.
Was that for school?
So I was only here for my first 3 years. I lived in Constance Bay. Do not remember it at all.
We were just there in that area for cottage life during August. Yeah,
very cool.
We were at McLaren's Landing.
I'm planning to bike out to my old home next weekend just to kind of go and see it.
They've got the Carp Creamery truck there, right? On Constance Bay, right? When you turn on.
Honestly, I have no idea.
Oh, you haven't been there in a very long time?
It's since I was 3.
Oh, shit. Okay. Damn, my bad.
So, but when 3 moved because of parents' job to Bradford, Ontario, then moved again because of parents' job to...
Where's Bradford?
Near Newmarket, near Barrie.
So Toronto. Well, because she's from Brantford. It sounds very similar.
There's a lot of... like
birds
and also like the bra and the buzz and the biz.
Yeah, I guess.
So, and because like Bracebridge and Bradford.
Yeah. Oh, you just mean B sounding?
Ottawa. No, it's just like there's so many towns and cities in Ontario that start with B. Like,
yo, I'm gonna cut you off with a weird tangent.
Go for it.
Something I meant to say. You totally just sparked my memory when we were talking about Ottawa, and it being like the right size.
Yeah.
When Kelly and I went to Columbus, Ohio, if you ever get a chance, go there, man. They have 1 million people, so it feels very similar in vibe, and they're big university town. They're all go Buckeyes, and or maybe it's a college, I don't know, but whatever. It was just so many nice trees, a very nature, like when you're walking around, all these small shops. It was.
Did it remind you of Ottawa?
Like so much.
Okay,
and the people even reminded me of Ottawa, even though we're in a completely different country. And the area code was 614. And for people who don't know Ottawa, it's 613 here. So that was really weird. We bought weed off some random guy, and he gave us his card, and we were like, "What?"
I got to say, I'm pretty sure one of my favorite YouTubers is from Columbus, Ohio.
Okay,
that's Scott the Waz.
Yo, I just
huge fan
again, this is a weird tangent, but I just watched this. It was like a documentary on Facebook video that just came up, and I kind of got sucked in. It was like 45 minutes, but about some YouTuber guy who, like, long story short, in the end, he kills a few people that work with him at the supermarket, and it was like the weirdest fucking shit ever. It's all about him. You find out through that he's having clear like gender identity issues, which like my heart goes out to him, but like don't fucking kill people.
Was this the person related to like the Danny Phantom thing?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, maybe this is like something that everyone old news, but for me, I was like, yeah, he became obsessed that he was gonna die and become one of these cartoon ghosts and go like live with these characters from the show that he was obsessed with, and he started cross-dressing.
He created his own character in the style of the Danny Phantom Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, he had, and for a while it seemed like, there could have been maybe healthy outlets for him to pursue, like become an animator or something. But like, and even his YouTube, it seemed, or he made it sound like that he had a decent following and interaction from people. It wasn't like a guy with 3 subscribers or something, But it really sucked me in because it was a creepy. It could totally be a movie or something, not to glorify it, but it was really, really a character story that really happened. And obviously the murder stuff at the end was pretty riveting because there's all these versions of what happened. And
it came directly from, like YouTube video, like it was popularized because of YouTube.
Well, that's the
where it
weirdest
started.
part, right? Is like only in this day and age can you have a murderer. I mean, he wasn't a serial killer, I suppose, but he still killed like 3 people, I think. Only in this day and age could you have like hours of like video confession before it even happens. It's like if the Columbine killers had been YouTubers. I'm not even, and he admired them too. That was part of, he wrote the name, he named his guns like, because he idolized Eric Fuckface, who killed all the kids in Columbine. So it was just really, to me, it was more, I guess, compelling as just like a human nature documentary and like the era that we live in. It was just like, here's when social media goes really fucking wrong. And I think, unfortunately, that it could lead to more people going down similar paths because it is an isolating experience that's extra isolating because it lies behind a facade of connectivity. Social media, right? It sounds like such a, oh, you're going to make so many friends. And yet for so many people, it's like this isolating experience that can be devoid of real connection, you know?
And I mean, the pandemic only enhanced that, right?
Definitely.
And it's one of those things where, even for me lately, I definitely started feeling that, the devoid of connection. And, starting to think about like, why am I posting this to Instagram? Like, why am I sharing this? Or why am I, like, what is the point of me sharing?
Partially it's because everyone else is.
Exactly.
There's that, just mob mentality.
Yeah. And then like, trying to bring it all back and trying to really look at like what I'm using to benefit the community a little bit more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like,
well, that's the problem, is that all social media has justifiable, seemingly good-hearted, avenues you can utilize it.
Yep.
With, I don't know, that came out a little blotchy, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I get it.
Is that there would seemingly be proactive, positive ways that you can utilize, and I would argue there definitely is, and there has been many times in the past, but it's all still entrenched in this much larger parasitic kind of we all know, like, the fact that we can talk about this shit and yet you and me both are gonna post on fucking Instagram at some point, you know what I mean? Like, we can talk as if we're above it, but we're still fucking right in it.
And I think it's it's being aware and using it as a tool and not letting yourself get sucked into it, which I definitely was at one point, for sure.
I think everyone goes through cycles and you kind of cleanse and
and I mean,
detox.
It's kind of like, I remember like having like a night. I remember this one night I went out drinking and I drank way too hard and I was like, all right, detox. And I was taking a few days and I was like, now I feel great. And I was like, all right, let's drink again.
You must have felt like shit because you had too many Mike's Hard Lemonade. They'll do that to you. No, I was going to say, actually, I want to address that too, because ever since we started doing in studio again, almost every single one has been on the weekend, and almost every time I've been drinking, and audience, I'm doing okay. Don't you worry. Well, I just feel bad because people who might tune every week might be like, all right, is this guy like drinking too much? But hey, it's Sunday, so go fuck yourself.
Honestly, I agree. It's Sunday, and it's also really nice outside, and like
we have had the best weather.
Absolutely, it's beautiful outside. It's comfortable in here.
Speaking of Ottawa, for people who are not from the area,
yes,
I would think you would back this up, but the 2 nicest times to visit Ottawa is about a 2-week period from the end of May into the beginning of June. Or maybe 4 weeks you could extend that to, the second half of May and the first half of June. Probably the best weather you'll ever get, folled by what we're in right now, which is like early September. It's just, or mid-September, I suppose.
Even early October can be pretty sweet. Like, and then there is a chance that by the end of October we get snowfall. Who the hell knows? You never know living here.
That is, the truest thing you can say about Ottawa weather is it's saucy bitch.
It's like, despite all my talk about the love of community in the city, the weather,
it's so temperamental. And just,
how I talked about adapting earlier?
Yeah.
I feel like it's so hard to adapt to Ottawa weather. It's like, what happened? Like, tomorrow, for all we know, it's going to go like -0.
Child-size hail. Child-size hail. Small child, though. Don't worry. It's only a toddler.
Infant hail coming down.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yesterday I was out in my bathing suit tanning. And then it's like,
and then it's flooding the next day or something. Or we had a fucking tornado.
I know.
Like, can you believe that shit? Like, only because growing up, I thought I had been here enough years to know the natural disasters that we get.
Was that the one that hit Gatineau really hard?
No, it ripped. Well, it hit a bunch of places. It went. There was 5 of them. They determined in the end that there was 5 spread out across the area.
That's insane.
Dunrobin got really fucked up.
Correct.
And Quebec, I think, but one of them was right through here. We were super lucky. There's a Timmy's that I can drive to in like a minute that got obliterated.
That was the
Rory's house got fucked up, and he lives right up the street. You know, Rory Gardner.
Oh, he lives down the road?
He lives, just past Knoxdale, the school up here on Greenbank.
Yeah,
and from what I know, or at least he did live there when his house got wrecked, I think.
Oh,
maybe I'm fucking that up. You can correct me, Rory, if you know.
But yeah, that was the time when we lost power too. For like, I had no power for at least like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah,
I think. And I had my buddy up, and we were so pumped to play Smash Bros together the whole weekend. And guess what happened? Yeah, that was my experience.
I love how like some people lost their house, and Eric's like, bro, I couldn't play Smash Brothers though. Like, that's hilarious. No,
hey,
we all fight our own battles.
I will kick your ass as Mr. Game & Watch.
Can I say that Smash Bros, it's not a game I wouldn't play, and maybe I just suck at it, but I've always thought it was so overhyped. And every time I've played it with 4 people, when everyone gets super far away from each other, I don't know where the fuck I am anymore. It zooms out so far. Is this true? Am I crazy? Okay, Morgan's nodding. I know you play a lot of video games.
It can be definitely, like, it's one of those things that it's, you throw the Nintendo branding on it, and then it's like, hey, this game is now very popular. And also you have the characters in it are so branded heavily, right? So it's like
it's a nice variety, though. I love the concept of let's get all these cool characters to fight, but I don't know. The format bugs me a bit, I guess. It's
one of those things where it's also like the fighting game genre is such a unique,
totally
little bubble of things, and it gets people. Oh yeah,
we're gonna play that after. Yeah, it's a Marvel fighting game.
That's amazing.
Yeah, dude. I grew up on Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and all that shit.
I love how you have an arcade cabinet in here.
Yeah, That's amazing. Is one of these little ones. I don't know if people ever want an arcade cabinet. This is called One Up. It's like a mini arcade, and it gets a little riser, so you can still stand at regular arcade height. But it's like I think it was $600 all in with tax, as opposed to. If you want to go buy a classic cabinet, it's going to cost you at least a couple grand. Like if it's something that was in the 90s, because they're collector's items now, and you have to service them. They're fucking old, so it's if one's working really great, someone put some money into that shit. Like my dream, if I was like on MTV Cribs and I got to that fucking point, I would be getting one of these. Morgan, you probably played this with me at there's a water park in Brantford where we used to play this, and it's the 6-player X-Men game. It's the only 6-player arcade setup I've ever seen. And we would play it as cousins.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there was like Nightcrawler, Dazzler, Colossus, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Storm. Wow, as if I'm a nerd. I mean, come on. But yeah, to me, that's like the just top level arcade cabinet.
That's amazing. The fact that like it's clearly made an impact on you.
Oh yeah, I would never be able to afford one now unless I won the lottery or something. I think they're like $5,000 or I don't even know.
That's crazy.
Maybe I'm wrong, but like I can only assume if the regular size ones are a couple grand that this epic 6-player version must be pricey.
Honestly though, even just having something like that, that's so fun.
And I went with replayability here because that X-Men one I was just describing, it's a linear game. It's a side-scrolling, get through, beat all the levels, and then it's done. But fighting games, to me, have that replayability of like, let's play this guy against this guy. It's always just meant to be a mashup,
It kind of reminds me of that as well as like the NBA Jam games and like...
Yeah, sports games are another one, yeah.
It's like
I used to love hockey games, too.
Where it's just like the back and forth and...
The shit-talking.
It's like, no, you. And you're like bumping each other. Like
that was that old skit on 40-Year-Old Virgin that probably hasn't aged very well, but how I know you're gay. And it's like they're playing Mortal Kombat and trying to chop each other's head off. But like, I don't remember any of the examples, unfortunately. But what a good riff to go off of. Because as much as it's not PC to say, and I agree with, you shouldn't use gay as this derogatory term of you suck. But we very much grew up with it. And when that movie came out, I don't know. It was very relevant.
That was like the thing to say. I remember like people would use it relentlessly.
Oh, that's so gay, man.
Totally.
Which, I don't agree with that. But at the time it was, things take time, I guess, to process through society's filter.
I haven't heard people say that at
Oh, no, you get called out now.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Unless you were trying to say it positively. You'd be like, what do you think of this shirt? That is so gay. If you were saying it like in a positive way, I think that would be all right.
Like
right?
an actual, like you're using the term exactly as it is.
Well, yeah, true. I didn't even think of that. Gay meant just like happy and joyful, right? Upbeat. Gaylord was a good thing. It was to be a lord of the gay.
I always remember the meet the parents.
Yeah. Gaylord fucker.
Yeah.
Man, what a name.
What a name.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned this because Kelly and I were talking in the car about that, about unisex names and predominantly male versus female, because Aaron O'Toole, who is the conservative leader running right now, spells his name the girl way, is what I was saying. And I didn't mean that to sound basic or whatever, but I've never met an Aaron that wasn't Aaron. And women that I've met named Aaron have always been Erin. And that's Aaron O'Toole, how he spells his name.
Same with me. I've never met an Aaron.
So it is a little odd, right? Did you ever notice that, Dad, or no? Aaron O'Toole, him having the girl spelling? Again, I probably sound like a caveman saying this. I don't mean to be a dick, but we started talking about that, and like I had a math teacher whose name was Shannon, and he was a tough motherfucker. He had a scar on his face. Like, you wouldn't mess with this guy, but I think that's how you end up with to quote Johnny Cash, boy named Sue. It's kind of that, I gave him that name so he would grow up tough because he would have to defend himself and, fight through the bullshit. Have you heard Boy Named Sue? Yeah.
I actually have not.
Wow. What? My dad's going to be flabbergasted by that. Yeah. So A Boy Named Sue is all about, I don't think it's a true story, but it's about someone in this story that Johnny Cash has written whose dad basically fucked off on him. And he said, I knew I wasn't going to be there to help raise you. So I gave you that name because I knew it would make you tough because you'd have to stick up for yourself at every turn.
So I'm going to have to listen to The Descendants.
I'll write you a list. Yeah, I'll write you a list.
Hell yeah.
I'll make you a playlist. Fuck.
Go for it. I would love to. Like,
I can't believe you haven't heard that Johnny Cash song. That is one that's kind of,
There's a chance I may have heard it, and I'll hear it, and I'll be like, oh, I recognize that.
My name is Sue. How do you do? Now you're gonna die. Oh man, it's so fucking good. And I bit his ear and all that. The way they describe the fight is so good. And the blood and the guts and the beer. It's man.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge Johnny Cash fan, but you got to give the guy credit. He has some iconic.
That
songs.
Song about him jacking parts from the car place that he worked at, a car factory. It's like, I got it one piece at a time, and it didn't cost me a dime. You know it's me when I roll through your town.
You know what I really like was when the Wolverine movie came out, his last...
Logan.
Logan, yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking...
Yeah, that Johnny Cash song that opens that movie.
Was it Hurt?
Yeah, I think
so. That's a Nine Inch Nails song that he actually covered.
Oh, is that right?
The Nine Inch Nails were like an early '90s industrial band. Trent Reznor, who's gone on to win a couple Academy Awards because he did the soundtrack for The Social Network and something else more recently. Soul. Yeah.
Well, I think
that's the Pixar thing. Yeah.
Johnny Cash did that song very well.
Yeah,
I thought it made an impression.
Oh, you should hear the original though. It's pretty great. Trent Reznor sings that really well. Yeah,
it's definitely one that is kind of like the iconic covers that you don't know are covers.
Yeah, because you assume anything Johnny Cash is putting out is like he's the originator of it.
That comes from an album of all covers that he did, right?
Yes, Kelly had that as well. Yeah,
amazing. Like, again, Hurt by Johnny Cash. Trent Reznor.
Yeah, if you haven't heard it, look it up for sure.
Trent Reznor even was like, "Hey, this is yours now." Like, you took it in a direction that I kind of wish I did, sort of thing. Like, he was like, "You made it your own."
You must have heard the Folsom Prison Blues though.
Oh yeah.
When he sings it live in front of all the prisoners and stuff.
Totally.
I always thought the disturbing part of that song is when he has the line about like, my mama told me not to play with guns. You got to be a good boy. And then he says, I shot a man, a Reno, just to watch him die. And then you hear them all go like, woo! Like, I'd be like playing a little nervously at that point. Like, these guys like death and anarchy. Yeah, I forgot about that. Well, seriously, wouldn't that make you a little nervous?
Yeah, of course.
I guess no one really fucked with Johnny Cash, though. He kind of has that prisoner vibe. He had been to prison, I'm pretty sure. He was a heroin addict and all this.
He knows what badass motherfucker, that guy.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, I don't want to say going to prison and doing heroin makes you badass. Don't do those things.
The other stuff.
But yeah, isn't it weird how people who end up in those situations, like let's say people have gone to prison and people who have done hard drugs, a lot of the time they are still super hella interesting people. It's like the people that ride close to the edge sometimes, ignite in a glorious way, even though they might be self-destructive at the same time.
Absolutely.
I think I've always been kind of entranced by that. Like growing up, well, Sublime was a huge one for me, and the tragic story that comes along with that, which is, him dying a month before their huge album is released, and they had been a struggling band selling CDs out of their car and shit, and it did go on to become multi-platinum and all that. But he had a baby, he had gotten married a week to the day before, and it was like a Greek tragedy of music. And then, I got into the Doors and Jim Morrison, and I felt like Bob Marley, even, not that he died of cancer related things, but still, I found like all the music that pulled me in was the stuff that those people aren't around anymore. Queen, whatever. Like, there's something about death that sucks me in. Not in like I don't think a morbid way, but I don't know. It's just the temporary nature of our existence, and then someone who shines so bright, and the fact that like, I wish I would have seen them in concert, and then you have to just go and scour YouTube and try to like pretend you're there and shit.
The music's still shining though for a lot of those bands. One of my favorites out of, even like thinking about the 27 Club and artists who passed.
Hendrix and
my personal favorite, and then whenever I think about it, is always in excess.
oh yeah, they were Australian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot the guy's name, the singer's name.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And then they did like a reality show to replace him 10 years
replaced him
later.
with a Canadian.
Yeah,
And
which is kind of cool.
I honestly, one of the songs they came out with, Pretty Vegas.
Who was the guy that got the gig? Do you remember? I remember he had like lived out of his car at one point. And it was like a huge break for him.
I don't remember his name, but he sounded fine. Like, he sounded good. And I like Pretty Vegas. Is such a sweet tune. And
And the original singer, it was like a David Carradine thing, right? It was like a audio erotic asphyxiation. Wow, for a
Yes.
musician that kind of fits. But
Yeah, that's-
auto erotic is what I was going for there.
yeah. And
Maybe he had headphones on. I don't know. Maybe he was listening to a jam while he was
he was listening to his own music, just like.
so narcissistic. Oh God, man, we've had some bright little moments in this podcast.
I love it. Honestly, this is so fun.
Okay, well, yeah, only because I know we have guests arriving soon. They're probably stuck in traffic. We probably have more time than we think. But I did want to talk to you about cycling because, as we mentioned, I think you're the first guest who biked here. I know it's a big part of your life. I wanted to know, first off, what is your thoughts on bike lanes versus biking on sidewalks, like when we were kids?
If you want my complete, honest, unfiltered opinion,
Let's give it, yeah.
I think anyone who bikes on a sidewalk is an idiot.
Oh, strong words.
I think not. I'm very much one
He's
for
biking to university, Eric, but you're
very-
calling him an idiot.
I'm
No.
very much one for the fact is, if you're on a bike, you're a vehicle. Be on the road or be on a bike lane. If you're on a sidewalk, you walk your bike.
Okay, well, now that the rules are as such, I would agree with you because there's times where I'm trying to walk on the sidewalk and some bike guy comes by, they don't even ring their bell or whatever, and it's annoying. But if we're measuring the way it used to be, and I don't know, maybe people still biked on the road, but when I grew up, we were always on the sidewalk and there weren't bike lanes in the way that there are now. Isn't a collision between a biker and a pedestrian better than a collision between a biker and a car?
Yes, very much so.
That's kind of where my logic is on that, but
I guess in my experience, when I was younger, I got hit by, when I was on the sidewalk, I got hit by a cyclist who was barreling down.
that's one of my questions, but okay.
Yeah, and I guess that might have like a factor as to like why I'm a little
Biased, like a little bit.
But I'm also very much I always, like, when biking here, I biked on the road almost the entire way.
Yeah,
I took the
well,
experimental.
you had the shorts. You're professional.
The thing is that I'm very much though. I could even go as far as to say that I'm terrified, or at least I used to be terrified of driving a car. Biking on the road has given me much more confidence, and I'm more confident now to get back behind the wheel of a car because I've developed confidence in defensive driving, defensive cycling. Like, if I'm biking on the road, I signal, I'm going left, I'm going right.
See, my thing with that is like the guy puts the arm up and I'm like, I don't know what that means, but to you too. Like, I don't.
So I'll explain.
Maybe that's my bad as a driver. I should probably know, but
So if a cyclist puts left arm up like this, they're
Yeah.
turning right. Cyclist out like this, they're going left. Down, opposite, stop. That means
so
stop.
down makes sense to me. Why was it not left or right?
It's
Well,
so
like,
it's so that a cyclist, I'm assuming, so that they can always have one hand.
but it means
always,
you've
always-
thought about this.
What's that?
It means you've thought about like why wasn't it left and right as I'm proposing? Okay.
Totally. Because, like, some people do that. Some people do go just like, I'm going right, I'm going left, which makes sense.
I would get that more as a driver.
I guess it's like the written, like the it's been written that way, so it is.
Oh yeah,
that
I'm
way
just
kind of thing.
questioning the dude that put out like the original book, and they were like, sure, yeah, whatever.
I have no idea, honestly.
weird.
I do think it is just so, like, when a cyclist is biking, so that you can, like, always have one hand on, I guess.
So that's so they're hating on lefties. Cool.
I think it's also
Cool. You don't want to embrace the southpaws.
I think it's also that by keeping all the signals to one arm, the car driver knows where to look to get the intent of the
receive the
bicyclist.
information,
That's
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Not darting eyes on like which hand is this guy going with, you know, and that kind of thing.
But would you validate that it's a worthy proposal to put your right hand out when you're going to go right? I think there is a
Well,
rudimentary.
but then you have to put your left hand out if you're going left, and there's just more.
Well, you'll never have to
coverage,
put
you know?
both out at the same time.
No. Well, of course
Well,
not.
that's what I'm saying. So, like, how is this difficult?
I was thinking that when Eric was talking about, well, you know, it was to keep one hand up. Well, which difference does it make? As long as you have one hand on, you can signal with either hand. But I really think it's about consistency. It's about, you know, you do all the signals from the one side, and that's where the driver looks to see what the bicyclist's going to do.
I guess just to play devil's advocate, who's considering the driver's perspective? How many drivers are informed on bike hand lingo? Not that many. How many people know the difference between left and right?
Hey,
That's where I'm coming.
look at car drivers today. How many of them are informed on a lot of
Well,
things?
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a whole other
geez.
fucking conversation.
I mean, let's not go there.
And that's one thing for me about biking on the roads. I actually will be straight up that I've biked a lot this summer, more than I ever have in any summer, especially with the pandemic. For my mental health, it's been amazing. But one of the things that I've realized, my experience, I've had very, very few bad encounters with cars. Actually, most drivers have been pretty amazing. And like, even if I'm taking up a whole lane, they're patient. But
Nice.
I'm very, very, I keep aware. If I know a car can pass me, I move over, let them pass, go on. If I know I can keep up with traffic, then I take up the lane, as long as like I'm not slowing them down. If there's a bus coming, I move. Like I do everything that I feel like is common sense to do, because I'm still like, even though I'm a vehicle, quote unquote, I still need to give the ones that have the higher speed a little bit of that extra room to do what they got to do.
Yeah, well, it's intimidating, especially if you're new to biking in the bike lane, especially if you're in a really metropolitan area and you're downtown or something. It's intimidating, especially you hear stories. I know when they implemented that newest bike lane on Queen Street a couple of years ago, it was because someone had, oh my God, yeah, someone opened their door and someone was biking, and it I don't know if they died or just got seriously injured, but
I always stay, especially in the downtown area, I always stay at least a meter away from those doors, because you never know.
Yeah.
And I always shoulder check all the time, all the time.
But does that make your bike riding experience kind of stressful as opposed to blissful?
At the moment, based on now, no. It actually, honestly,
You're so acclimated to that.
I was biking to Maryville at around 9 p.m. last week. So I had lights on, but it was pitch black, very dark. I was not stressed. I was adrenaline. I had
In your zone. Nice.
I had it, but same thing what we were talking about with comedy. When I'm on my bike, I get adrenaline. I have my music on my phone in front of me playing sometimes, and it just feels like I get energy. I feel
Music is
alive.
such a thing, man. Yeah, I went longboarding for 3 hours one night at 1 in the morning. I found this I don't know, suburban little network of cul-de-sacs or I don't know, just different connective little mazes that I could just skate around, and it was so much better with music. And every time I kept finding my way back to the way that would lead me home, I'd be like, oh, and at that point I was happy because I got a little lost, but I'd be like, oh, here's Greenbank. Cool. I can head back to my place. And then I would just turn around and I went back in twice, where I would just delve back in knowing I might get lost again, but it was so fucking fun.
And also night, anything like that. There's something about biking and even what you're talking about longboarding, just being out at night when it's so quiet.
Yes, man.
And it's just,
Yes. I'm a night owl. I've done overnight shifts in all my careers for the last 20 years.
and I just started working at a bar, which I didn't mention, but I'm working at a place called Montgomery Scotch Lounge. I'm learning a hell of a lot about Scotch, and I didn't used to like Scotch. Now I like Scotch kind of. And
My dad's a Scotch man. What's your preferred Scotch of choice? Is it Lafroig or something like
Oh,
that?
are you an Isla guy?
Yeah, I'm very much an Isla guy. Lagavulin is.
Oh, there you go.
I
That's
mean,
Ron
the
Swanson's
nicest.
brand.
Yeah, but and that's to me.
Both got the mustache.
That's
too.
the pinnacle. That's the pinnacle. But Lafroig is my everyday.
Nice.
So okay, cool. I do know my
I
dad.
gotta ask, Lafroig, do you have a preference between 10 quarter cask lore?
I would prefer.
I don't even know what that means.
I would prefer 10 for me. Quarter cask is harsh. I've always found it
I
harsh.
agree.
Yeah.
It's like drinking a barrel.
Yeah.
It's like drinking. The way we describe it on our menu is it's like a burning hospital. It's like it's like
Why would anyone
it's
pick
chemicals and it tastes like, but because it's so. But the people who like it really like it.
But a burning
But,
hospital.
But the other one you said, lore. I don't think I've tried that.
We had it in stock and it just went out. So it's same. There's an element of peatiness. I really can't speak too much. I'm still very much learning. But if you're interested in
I was
Scotch,
gonna say, it sounds like when we go out, I'll bring my dad and you can.
Okay, yeah, come to the Scotch Lounge. So there's the location I'm working at right now is the Old Ottawa South one, which is just down the road from the Mayfair. But the new one is where Prest used to be. Press Cafe.
Again, a place I've heard of so many times, but I've never.
So that's at 750 Gladstone, and that's going to be a music venue, and they might want to be doing comedy and stuff there.
Is that near the drum shop or no?
Further down the road.
Okay.
But yeah, totally come by. Like that's for me.
Do they only have Scotch?
Scotch and beer and wine.
Oh, beer. Okay.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not a big Scotch guy, I'll try a sip and all that. But
tell the owners that if I can listen to decent comedy and drink actual decent Scotch, that's a winning combo.
Comedy club.
Because like I tried to one of the reasons that they pulled me on is because of like my connection with CKCU and stuff like that, and I want to help them create a space that is like creating a creative community in a space that's also so unique with giving different alcohol options that a lot of places don't have, and they have so many different scotches in them. I think that would be amazing. Like in Scotch,
the whole audience just guys with mustaches. I'm predicting it now. Bunch of Ron Swansons.
But imagine that, like, because Scotch is this thing you sip slowly, and it's like perfect for comedy. Totally, like a total.
Yeah. Well, you say that, but it's also something that if you don't sip slowly, you become a drunken doofus, and that's not always great for comedy because there are heckling tables that.
Well, that's why you need the other Ron Swanson ingredient, meat.
To satiate them. I thought you were going to say like Ron Swanson's ability to shut people the fuck up, where he's always just like, this will not be tolerated here. Like he's just got that direct nature about him.
I don't even know how I started talking about the Scotch Lounge, but
these are the best podcasts, though. The ones where we don't know how the fuck we got here.
I very much because I was talking about how I've been working later and biking home after my shifts. So it could take the long way home, and I'm biking along the canal, and it's just so refreshing. And again, the whole thing about biking is, I'll just say for people listening out there, if you are a cyclist and you like cycling, just be mindful about people around you, for your own safety, but also for pedestrians, because when you're on bike lanes, you can very much hurt somebody if you're going too fast.
Yeah. Especially the elderly, who are often a good portion of pedestrians.
And will get hurt the worst.
And I will stress this so much because it's something that I didn't do it for the longest time, but I've started doing it. It doesn't take a lot of effort to either ring your bell or say on your left, and that will give people, even if they jump, it's better than them walking in front of you by accident, or a dog. That's one of the things that always terrifies me the most, is when I'm biking and seeing a dog.
Something lunges at you, yeah.
Well, and a dog is way more unpredictable than a person.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is run over somebody's dog.
Of course.
And either hurt them or at least like scare them.
Yeah. No, but if you ram into a dog's like organs or something, it could be serious problems, or like, break their arm or whatever,
A few weeks ago, I was biking and a rabbit ran into my wheel. It was fine. I actually checked on it. It was okay. But I was like, you idiot. Like, I was just like...
What are you doing, Thumper?
It literally ran into my wheel. I guess it, didn't process the time when I,
Well, you're questioning all roadkill at this point.
Exactly.
They all,
And I was just like...
Didn't want to die by
I felt squishing. I was just like doing this. I was going like, oh my God. Like, I just hit a rabbit. I just hit a rabbit. And a homeless guy just walking by was like, hey, dude, I think you hit that rabbit, man. And I was like...
He was like, are you going to eat that?
And I was like, yes, clearly I felt it. It hit my freaking wheel. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing it in, man.
So outside of that...
Literally, he's rubbing it on your wheel. Like, this is how we season it. No, I don't...
Getting back, yes, exactly. Be safe, be kind, be respectful. I've had more problems with other cyclists than anything this summer, and that's also because a lot more people are biking, and people who have never biked before are now biking out on the roads because of the pandemic and everything.
Fucking noobs.
That's right. Get good. But just remember to just be safe and be kind. And also, if you're on those damn scooters too, be safe and be kind.
Oh, the rentable ones, yeah.
Just same thing, same exact thing. Like, if you are going to be on the sidewalks, just don't bullet.
Let's just admit that at least 50% of people on those scooters are hammered in the market.
I know.
Literally, I was drinking with a bunch of people after a show, and like 2 of them went and rented them, and they're like, hey, and they did all right, but I was very much worried they were going to smash their face.
I know, and that honestly, it's more about their own safety than them. They're not like.
Well, it's that there's no credentials or anything that has to be met. Like you can just drunkenly rent this thing that can go pretty fast and fuck up your life.
It's like, well, I'm sure it asks you. It's like, you haven't been drinking, have you? No.
Yeah, liability stuff
not.
for sure, but you don't have to blow into a tube to activate it or something.
That would be so funny. That'd be so like such an anti-COVID thing. Blow into this tube on this.
Well, not only that, but the guy would be like, "Are you kidding me? I decided not to drive to be responsible, and now you're telling me I can't take a fucking scooter?" You know, like I feel like that guy might be a little frustrated that he had tried to go the right route and still is, you know,
and then
more bullshit.
You can't scoot. I mean, that South Park episode.
Okay, well, just to wrap it up with biking, I was going to ask if you had been in an accident. You described the sidewalk stuff. Also, sidewalk biking, as I had proposed, in my version of this, you would be mandated to have a big horn that goes every time you go by someone, because that is, you know, very essential.
And most people, honestly, are pretty like I hardly see anybody who could like gets mad about people on sidewalks. It's really only if there's people who are literally like if there is
teenagers.
If there's like an elderly couple walking, let's say, like it's like you can just say, hey, I'm coming on your, like, as long as you notify them instead of trying to like shimmy around and surprise them, that's uncool.
Yeah,
but as long as you're kind of giving them some
people
heads
are
up.
Courteous. Yeah,
and that's the thing is like it's just a matter of just common sense, really. It's just, and also just being like, if you were a pedestrian, what would you want someone to do? You know,
yeah, exactly. Like, I did want to point out that Aruga was not a sound effect my dad pushed. That was all me.
That was great.
You didn't even give me the full applause. It was like Anyways, I do want to ask you, what was the furthest bike ride you've ever done? Like in one stretch or you know, like a journey?
This summer I did about 100K. That's
impressive.
Went out to Stittsville and went to Quitter's Coffee for the first time. And I'm hoping to maybe before winter hits, I was talking to a friend about maybe trying to bike to Montreal. Maybe. That's a big question mark, but that's something that's well, again, especially in this kind, I don't want to say Ottawa because you'd be going from Ottawa to Montreal, but the weather is, you never freaking know. Correct. Really. But that's one thing that I want to start doing more, and I think I want to incorporate into my traveling, especially if I go over to Europe at some point after things settle down, is like getting around by bike.
Yeah.
And
well, I was going to ask you, I mean, you talked about being a little afraid to drive. Have you ever gotten your license at any point, or you do have a license?
I did at one point, but it expired since,
yeah.
And now I have to redo the entire process.
So is it also an environmental motivation for you to be trying to? No, not even. Okay.
No, I mean it for sure. Like it's there. It's not, but that's not why I'm biking.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where it's like
it's a nice additive of like
it's like
I'm also not polluting shit.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I also like I don't need a car at the moment necessarily. However, I know for a fact that this is going to be the next step in my own personal growth to then go back and get my license again, using the confidence that I've gained being on the road.
Nice.
And then incorporating that into driving, even if I just have the license, even if I can just rent cars and go and...
Well, that's so cool too, to like not only utilize something that's giving you confidence, but just to face your fears and go back and like own that shit and like, you know, not let it beat you or whatever you want to say.
It's very much like
empowering.
Oh yeah, totally. I used to be even so nervous to write the G1 test. No longer, but I remember being so, I remember going in there and they were sitting me down and I was like...
See, the written one never scared me, but the G2 was always so intense because it's this one-on-one, really intimate experience with this person you don't know. And much like many people who are in this kind of position of judgment, I don't know, at least someone with anxiety like me, I instantly feel like, oh God, are they watching everything I do? Is like, oh no, I'm gonna fart now, or like, or whatever, like whatever it may be. I get way too in my own head, knowing that there's this stranger just analyzing me, and it's not a great space to be in.
I did the same thing when I was younger, and I need to just adapt again, taking what I've done, moving forward with it, and seeing what's next, but constantly growing, even if I'm doing something that's very different. You know, biking and driving are very, very different things, but at the same time, they both have similar functions and the idea of like more so about the ethical and like how you follow the rules and whatnot. and I know that like I trust myself on the road on a bike, and I'm one step closer to trusting myself on the road behind the wheel. And that's,
or with maybe other things, just any moment where you need to trust yourself and your ability to do stuff.
And it's also coming to a point where it's like I'm starting to become more comfortable. Like, I never really had a fear of flying, but just like doing stuff that I'm like, why am I afraid?
Yeah.
Why am I afraid to go by myself somewhere? Like,
That's so important though, to break down the things that you just you don't even bother to really analyze anymore, and you're like, no, this is just this phobia or this thing that it's so simple, oversimplified. You don't even look at it for what it really is anymore because it's just this scary thing. Like, you know, it's really important to go back and try to confront that kind of shit, because then you realize it's not what you've been making it out to be, and it is manageable potentially.
Yeah. And I think that you know, it all comes in time. The pandemic made a lot of those things seem way less problematic than they actually were.
Yeah, put a lot of things in perspective. Yeah,
totally. And
okay, well, we do need to wrap up, but
Okay.
do you have a question, Dad? Did you conjure anything during this?
My only question that came to mind for cycling that I am curious about, just because I'm always curious about tech, is what do you use for navigation, and or do you have any special hardware that you use when you're riding?
No, I mean, outside of what I'm wearing on my legs right now,
Feels like he's wearing nothing at all.
nothing at all. Oh, trust me. Yeah, honestly, this is probably the best investment I did make is what I'm wearing right now, because they have a cushion on my tush, and
That's so innocent. There's a cushion on my tush. My mom sewed it on.
God.
No, I'm just joking. I'm busting your balls.
And and the other one was just buying my new used bike that I got, but it's a brand that used to be based out of Ottawa called Eclipse, and I'm super connected to the bike now, and like emotionally connected to it. I've had nightmares about it getting stolen. That's how it was.
Crazy.
Yeah, actually.
But that makes sense. Like, it's such a, you know, important part of your life.
Totally. And that's why when I was asking, I was like, hey, can I like bring it in? You're like, of
course,
And
yeah.
when you mentioned about the fence, I was like, oh, I hope it's a tall wooden fence. Please be a tall wooden fence.
Yeah.
And then, because I would be down here being like,
We built that originally when I had a 7-foot weed plant.
amazing.
And this was like a year, well, I
That's
don't know.
great.
It was not that long ago, but growing weed's not for me. It's too much work.
And in terms of the tracking, honestly, like I typically don't track. I did today because I had no idea like how to directly get to this. At one point I figured it out, but yeah, I've never been in this neighborhood.
It was just Google Maps or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But most times I bike. I hardly ever use Google Maps.
You don't print out MapQuest?
That's right. I just bike. I bike
Remember
and
those days? Fuck.
I go down streets. I'm like, hey, I haven't been down there. I'm gonna go see what's down there and go. And sometimes I end up going for 15K. Sometimes I end up going for 40K. Sometimes I end up at a place that I might note about talking about on my show.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's kind of
You can feel that when you listen to your show, though, that you've been to these places and you've just soaked up stuff, and then you had to tell people about it. And that's what I love about your show.
Thanks for that.
I want to ask you the season 2 question. We do need to wrap it up, but just because we got guests upstairs, but I think I heard them. But anyways, if you could have dinner with anybody who is living or dead, but someone you've never met before, who would it be and why?
Oh man, my first go-to is David Byrne from Talking Heads for sure.
Okay.
I'm
familiar with their singles. I'm not like a deep cuts guy for them, but
I think he's got this charisma to him that definitely inspires my karaoke nights, that's for sure. But
what is stage presence and stuff?
Totally.
Okay. Well, now I have something to check out.
I would say watch the movie Stop Making Sense, which is their concert film, and it's basically
It's like a documentary almost, or
it's basically like it's a concert. You're watching just like a concert from start to finish, but it's so different.
all their stuff I've heard is very out there in a good way, though.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like it starts off with him walking out with a boombox and a guitar, and then eventually each song adds another member, and then it gets to the point where it just there's not like extra theatrics or anything. It's just his energy though, and the way he moves, and the way he's, kind of like the Salvador Dali thing, where it's like I don't do drugs, I am drugs, and that's very much how
I've never heard that quote.
Yeah, and that's very much how I feel about myself, where like I smoke weed here and there, but outside of that, I don't need them because I feel like, and that's why I feel like I want to meet David Byrne, because I feel like he's very much in that similar vein, and I would love to hear why a little bit more. And and also just tap into a little bit of what his life's philosophies are, and because I love the music, but I want to know about him as this person. And
I always love when I ask this question to someone and they have just like something they don't even have to hesitate, you know? Very cool.
Honestly, outside of that, I think another one would probably be like Alanis Morissette or something. Because like,
nice.
I just think that would be a cool community connection. Talk to her about Ottawa, but also, I kind of got a crush on her, I guess. Like, I don't know, she's cool. I think she's awesome, and her music is sweet, and she's beautiful. So
she's great. Yeah, you and me both. I'd love to. Alanis, we both want to interview you.
Oh, I think that that's one of the things though. Is like
she's on tour right now.
Yeah, she was supposed to come to Blues Fest, right? Because then it got canceled. I was like,
she's doing the States, I think, right now across, because you can do shit in the States right now.
But it just, again, like those two are definitely like, they're more in the music realm. But I would love. Oh, and Ari Aster too, the director of Hereditary and Midsommar. Love those. I'm a big horror movie guy, so like
I was gonna say the names sound vaguely familiar, but I'm not. I'm drawing a blank.
I love horror movies, and I would love to talk to a director about horror movies because I want to make one day.
You know what's cool? I know we're going probably longer here, but I heard on the local, just because you're a local radio guy, the station they have at Algonquin, whatever it is, they have a shitty range. You have to like be within like 2 kilometers to hear them.
CKDJ.
There you go. Yeah, they played my song when it first came out too. They're good people, but it's not the greatest broadcasting tower or whatever. But they had a podcast show I heard that was really cool, where it was this guy interviewing the living relatives of all the old Universal Hollywood monsters. So it was like, I'm gonna draw blanks on those names, but you know what I'm talking about?
Lon Chaney the Wolfman,
okay,
that sort of thing. And
there was more. There was the Frankenstein dude who's super famous.
My brother would know. Bela Lugosi was Dracula.
Okay, so I was going to say that name.
Yeah, and oh god, Frankenstein. Yeah, he was really famous. That guy.
Anyways, but it was very cool and very along the lines of what we were just talking about. Yeah,
that's amazing because I'm there's something about those stories and the way that horror works that fascinates me. So those would be my top 2. Alanis Morissette, I'll put whatever.
I love that you had several. That's cool.
Boris Karloff was Frank.
Boris Karloff, thank you. I knew all these names kind of in the tip of my brain, but I'm not as big into horror. I do like it, but
I would say so David Byrne or any horror movie director.
Cool, man.
Prolific one. Like Sam Raimi, the guy who did the Spider-Man movies.
Well, and he's doing the new Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
And it's gonna be a horror blend in there.
Oh, it's gonna be destroying. Everything's been building up to the multiverse. If you watch WandaVision and Loki.
Oh yeah. And I just can't wait because he, even in the Spider-Man movies, he had the element of horror, just kind of like little bits of it.
Well, and the new Spider-Man flick coming out in 90 days, I think, has friggin' Doc Ock returning and all these Raimi people because the multiverse allows you to just. I know. Cool. Yeah, that's one of those nerdgasm moments.
And that's what this whole they have to top Endgame, right? How do they top Endgame? By just bringing it all together.
I think it's also to have a fluidity moving forward. Like there's so many things you can see them setting up. They're definitely setting up the Young Avengers. They're trying to set up like the next, because people like Robert Downey Jr., he's probably not coming back. He didn't even do the voices for the What If cartoon show, and some people are done with it, I think. And so they have to have the next generation. You already see. This is super nerdy. People have tuned out maybe, but WandaVision, they've got Speed and Wiccan, her kids with Vision. They were part of Young Avengers. Yeah. In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the older Black Captain America, his grandson who opens the door becomes Patriot. Ant-Man's daughter becomes Stature, and she becomes like the giant of the team. And I'm missing a couple, but it's trending there.
Well, and there's the new Hawkeye show, which
so Kate Bishop is another Young Avenger.
I love how it's a Christmas, like a holiday.
I know. They had the best tagline too. It was like, this Christmas, the best gifts come with a bow.
Yeah, that was very funny.
Fucking give that advertising guy a huge promotion. That was gold. Speaking of puns, oh my God. That's a great one to go out on, man. Let's high five because we can. This used to be the way before. That was, I think we did it pretty good there.
That was good.
All right, we'll play the arcade, and thank you for watching, people. And check out Eric's show.
Curiosity, Mondays, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on 93.1.
You can check out back episodes, right? All right, so.
Absolutely.
If you want to hear some of this,
thanks
more of this, you just listen to us talk for 2 hours, but if you want a little more.
This is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yo, anytime, man. We'll get that drink soon. Dad's coming. You want one of these or no?
I would love one.
It's a sticker.
Yes.